G'day, folks. AoS Coach here, and we are tracking in for the Meta Report. Excited about this one. We have a new season, lots of cool things like Scourge of Akshi. Where have we landed on this? Like, I wanted to do Soapy. I feel like there's a few people who were like had differing opinions. I was all for the soap.
Some people were saying spicy. Some people were saying ashy. Which is what I was saying initially, but spicy seems to be the one that's catching on, spicy scrolls. Yeah. So,
all right, we're here for the spicy scrolls. As always, we got Elias here, the most handsomest person in the mortal realms. We're going to talk a little bit about, but the caveat here as well. We'll get it on the screen in a sec, but the caveat here is that we are 30 days, kind of maybe like a little long. Obviously, like the minute things started dropping and leaking, people started playing like TTS leagues. So some people a little longer. Some people, they waited for their general's handbook to be in hand. But it's about 30 days. So the sample size is relatively low. So while we'll show some initial trends, take it with a grain of salt. It's low sample size, low. Like, people are still kind of figuring out the Wild West, but we thought we'd at least present to you what we're kind of seeing, and then kind of revisit this in a month's time to see what has changed, what has stayed true, what has differed. So, Elias, where are you at? What's going on? And it's funny because, like, when we talked General's Handbook, we talked about factions. We're about to go to a tournament next week. We got Old Town Throwdown, and I'm pretty sure I put a stake in the ground to say that the faction I was running, which is not the list I submitted.
Yeah, we're going to Old Town Throwdown. We'll both be playing next week, so it'll be super fun to hang out and see you in the States. It's a localish for me. It's like an hour away from me, but for you, it's quite a trek. But it's gonna be really fun.
Casual 15 hours.
Yeah, casual. Easy jog. It's a super fun event, super big event. But like you say, we haven't really seen a lot of like big tournaments happen. There's a little bit, but like super early data. Everyone's trying out all sorts of wacky things. Like, who knows what people are going to show up with Old Time Throwdown. I know I'm going to come with a goofy list. I know you're coming with kind of out there list as well. Things that may or may not work out. It's good, but there's still a lot of like insights to be had and conversations to be had about what's going on and like what we're seeing, some cool, exciting new stuff. What we think is accurate versus what might be changing as more data comes in, stuff like that. So it'll be fun, and I'm excited. I hope we match. Like, I've never gotten to play against you, so it'll be really fun if we get to fight.
And by the way, for those who want to hear about the list, so Elias has already awarded me, before the event has even started, I have won the Dog Shit List Award. So well done to me.
Number one,
already coming over as a winner. And then I get to taste all your freedom. So if you want to listen to the list submission, you are going to do a show at 7 p.m. Thursday. Freedom timing on Cali time. So go check out. I'll put the link down below. So go check it out. It's going to be one of our biggest events. Actually, I think it's equal to.
It's huge. It's like 100, over 100 people. 120, I think, 130.
Yeah, it's about 120-ish.
It's as big as the last WO was, like bigger actually, because that one has a special circumstance. But like it's a very, very competitive event. Like, tickets sold out in like 24 hours when it went up, and it's a big one. So you should, and there's a lot of like big hitters going, a lot of like world champion level players. A lot of the best people in the States at least are going to be there competing. So it's a very, very serious event, even though it does have a light spirit to it. But like, the competition is intense, and it will provide some pretty interesting insights. So on my stream, I'll also be talking about like what we're seeing from these players, what it means, stuff like that, not just going over the list themselves, but also kind of what it might mean and what we're sort of expecting. So it'll be a good one, I think.
Yeah, and partially why I wanted to record this now as opposed to do it almost afterwards. We could have done this and go, right, what do we see with Old Town? We would have had an extra 2 weeks of data, but actually, like, what's the trends now? And then what kind of unfolds over the next couple of weeks. So without further ado, we'll talk about it. Context here as well. Traditionally, I would do a 60-day review of the data. This I've obviously spliced off, so we're not going to capture anything that happened in the last season, which means that it's about 30 days approximately of data, maybe a little more, a little less. We are tapping into the best coast pairings, so be mindful of that. There'll be some other data that we're not collecting as well from other tournament systems, but this is probably the one that gives us the best data set, at least to be able to do what we want to do. So working off this, so bear with us on this, but I think it'd be very exciting. We're also filtering on five game events, so 5+. So we did have Tacoma, which was an 8-game event, but your RTTs, your 1 dayers, we're not capturing because that can fluctuate the data quite significantly.
Yes, it definitely does.
It definitely does. Sometimes you get little bunny runs. Sometimes it gets a bit wild. And obviously what's influenced the meta doing this particular show is we've got the Scourge of Ashi War Scrolls. We've got new War Scrolls. We've got new faction abilities. Some have like unit enhancements. Some have... There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like you know what you got. If you don't know Warhammer Community, go check it out. You've got the new pitch battle profile. So we've had some updates on that. Some points have adjusted. Some rules have been tweaked. Some things have been clarified, such as being able to use your rage dice to how that passively works in regards to having to use all of your dice when you're trying to mitigate damage, not doing it one at a time. Obviously, new General's Handbook, new battle plans, new battle tactics, new things. And finally, it hasn't quite influenced just yet, but this bad boy's about to come hit, and I'll be curious to see what I reckon this is going to shake up the meta. This is going to have some heavy impact on the meta. So very excited.
It's looking good. It's looking like one of those books that really like has a very distinctive play style that will influence how you're gonna have to know how to fight ogres. I'll put it that way. You're gonna have to learn it. So it's really cool, really awesome models, and also the new general handbook like has completely changed things and how games play in tournaments and like what you're incentivized to do in ways that are really cool. So like the game has changed in many ways since we last had a video. So
what have you noticed? Because I know you went to the Palm Springs Open. I know you've had a whole bunch of games in.
Yeah.
What's your experience so far? Just in this these first 30 days from
in this first 30 days. So I've been in all my practice games. I've been to I played in a good amount of games in general. I played 2 GTs already in this General's Handbook, and one of the things that I'm noticing is that the games can be a lot more. The points change really wildly. So like the scoring is very different, which really incentivizes a lot more proactive play. You can't just sit back. So people are making all sorts of plays, which makes games very dynamic. And you're seeing a lot more blowout games because people have to take more risks and like holding one particular scores less. So you're seeing a lot of stuff like that. You're seeing a lot of sudden comebacks as well, which is pretty exciting. And the units that are starting to shine for season art has definitely changed. You're not rewarded for being passive. You have to be proactive in these missions. And the other thing that I'm really, really seeing is there's a huge amount of skill expression that's showing up that was like some people felt a little bit flat in the last GHB. This one is like every single mission you have to play very different. You can't approach every mission the same way. You have to completely change your game plan for every single mission. And that's a really cool and exciting thing to have in these GTs where like it's not like a bunch of rounds in a row where you're just different opponents, same basic game plan. You have to like really be able to adapt. Otherwise you're going to suffer for it. But that's exciting to me. And that's one of the big things I'm noticing so far.
Yeah, I found a lot of my games have been relatively close right now. Like I had a game yesterday, it was 66-65. I've had a whole bunch of just like 1 point to 5 point difference kind of games. So I did have a blowout, but to your point as well around risk, I had a massive blowout. Was it 80-47 or 37 against Sylvaneth? And my opponent, Jason, friend of the channel, hey, Jason, what he did was like top of turn 1. I gave away top of turn 1. He teleported Durthu and a bunch of bugs, but it didn't work off. So he went high risk really early on. And what happens? 2 megas go in and smash face.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, even because like yesterday we played 2 games at the local store. We played Avalanche of Ash. We played the first 2 battle games of Old Town Throwdown. So we did Avalanche of Ash, and obviously having the objectives collapsing or potentially collapsing. Then we played Battle Round 2, which was Caverns, and just having this ability. And we end up playing on a table with a massive piece of terrain and just being able to teleport around and just like how dynamic that can create. Those two battle plans alone, the way you play it is so different that it rewards different play styles, it rewards different armies. I'm having a ball.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I definitely feel like the missions help with that feeling of like the result of the game has so much to do with your decisions, and like matchups almost matter less than they did before, which kind of surprised me. But I've been playing them, it's like you have to if you play the mission like really well or you make mistakes, you see like, oh, I messed that up. Like Avalanche of Ash, you're like, oh no, I deleted 3 of my own objectives. And it's like you can't really like, hey, you did that to yourself, you know what I mean? But like all these missions create these like moments where you have choices to make and you have to make those choices right. And it's really fun to me. It's really exciting, like and hilarious sometimes because my opponent did accidentally delete 3 of their objectives turn 1. And I was like, oh! First time playing the mission, and he was like, oh no.
Tell you what, the battle tactics are a lot harder too. Like, there's so many of them that have like a real anchor in the like the 1, 2, or 3. Like some of them are really hard to kickstart, and then it gets easier. Some of them you get stuck in the middle, and I've had a game, one of them where I'm like, I've got to hold the objective. I need to go kill some heroes, but I also need to be within 9 inches of the heroes. And then if you redeploy, it's going to throw me off. I'm like, oh, good Lord. There was just so many of those situations. Having a ball.
Yeah.
Having a ball. Without touching this too much, I think, again, this goes to context, is there has been a whole bunch of events that have happened in the last 30 odd days. Being mindful that we've only had a couple of like significant ones, not to say your events aren't significant, but like from a numbers perspective, you've had Tacoma come in at 100 players. You've got GT War Squigs. Geez, thanks for that one. Feuds of the Fen, we've got Iron Wheeled, we've got Vienna Summer Tabletop, we've got Palm Classic. You've got some like 40, 50, 60s, but I think you'll start to see some 70 pluses hitting the table pretty soon. Obviously, Old Town Throwdown as well. So, and to your point as well, probably plenty of these 20 to 25 player kind of events too, that getting people straight in, getting some reps in. So,
And some of these early events also, these really small ones, they're like GTs. A lot of them are like basically communities going like, hey, we're gonna have like a little like first week GT, real casual, let's try some stuff out. Like so like there's a really small players count and kind of a more casual vibe of people just practicing and sort of figuring out what's happening. So like those also kind of throw the data in weird directions. So we're small amounts of data, not that many games yet, but there is still enough to get a good idea of what's happening.
Yeah, not to disregard any of the data, but just again the context of like it's not the hugest amount of data, so it's not like when we show you the top 5, it'll make sense. Where you're like, how are you in the top 5? Why are you in the top 5? Which brings us to Fire Slayers, the top of the meta. Yeah. I can assure you, 12 months ago, we would not have said Fire Slayers number 1, Hedonites of Slaanesh number 2, Sylvaneth number 3, Soulblight Gravelords number 4, Daughters of Cain number 5. So you can see we've got a clear outlier. Fire Slayers only has 50 games under the belt. So when they're eating the table, they're doing incredibly well. Hedonites of Slaanesh being a relatively new battle tome, doing quite well, I would argue. Daughters of Cain being one of the biggest boogeymen in the game, very healthy win rate, still above the 55%. Soulblight Gravelords above 55%. Sylvaneth hitting the high 60s, or the 60 over 60, with 101 games. So that is a really good sample size given the amount of games played so far. Anything you want to say on this? I don't want to harp on this too much because I'd rather just go to popularity versus like overall win rate.
Yeah, like just to like the Fire Slayers thing. It's if you actually look at it's like basically 9 games difference between wins and losses. So like take it with a grain of salt, with some of these. But a lot of these do kind of more or less make sense to me. And Soulblight are kind of in that stronger end of things right now, and that's kind of there we go. Came back. Lots of difference, just there, but
yeah,
this stream.
What made but again, what made sense?
The Sylvaneth, Daughters of Cain, Soulblight, Gravelords, those all are like I know where they're coming from. I see why these results are happening. Some of them are still like a little bit skewed because like some early tech has been coming up as like if you're like, oh, how do I react to this? So it might see that change, but like there are enough numbers where you're just like, okay, it's starting to paint a real picture. But some of them, grain of salt with it.
Yeah, and they're all going to play relatively well into the rage mechanic, whether it's the fury dice, whether it is mitigating damage, whether it's having a really nice beat stick, being able to play into some of the missions relatively well. So no surprise, but again, take it with a grain of salt. Let's see. But it's fascinating. One thing I will say at this point is it's really fascinating. Like if we go back to our last video before the General's Handbook, our top 5 was Daughters of Cain, so they've kept stay consistent. Disciples of Tzeentch were second. Flesh Eater Courts were third. Lumineth Realm-Lords were fourth, and then Ogor Mawtribes were fifth. So when we get to the next slide, we'll see actually has there been a proper dip. So what you actually now start to see is the faction popularity as well as the win rate. So when you go to a tournament, what's the likelihood or what's the representation rate of factions at a tournament? No surprise, Cities of Sigmar absolutely won. Gorgeous army. 2, got enough time to actually hit the table. 3, we've seen a spike of Cities of Sigmar players who probably were being a bit held back of late. I think when we last talked about cities, they were like a 2% representation rate.
Yeah, it's really
now like they've exploded almost 4 times the amount. So
totally makes sense because like even beyond even power level stuff, like the last GHB really made shooting armies not very fun to play as. Like you just didn't get to play your army, and so it's very frustrating. And now even the win rate's doing quite well, but like even if they weren't, I think you'd see these jumps in these shooting armies seeing play because you get to play your army, you know, and that's fun. And you don't constantly feel like you're getting strangled by the maps, not getting to do your thing. So some of these armies, like, yes, their power level did increase, but also people really wanted to play them, but they were feeling frustrated. And now that's kind of been lifted off. You're seeing it really take off. Some of them, like Seraphon, absolutely shot into the stars. On that. Like 7.3% popularity for that army is like huge. I don't know what it was before, but it was not very high.
Who was that?
Seraphon?
Seraphon, I had their I even just their representation rate, they were 3.7 before to 7.3, so they've exploded as well. And then
their rate jumped too, right?
Yeah, they were really low.
They were like 30s, and now they're at 54%, and that's big. That's a really giant jump. They got some rules changes. They got a really good spicy stuff. And I think also just the maps play better for them. They just interact with the way the mission is, the way the measurements between objectives are a lot better. So it's a good time to be a Seraphon player. Some armies though, not so much.
Yeah, and it's interesting, again, low sample size, but I would have predicted, and I'm pretty sure I did predict, that Kharadron Overlords, given they have, really good war scrolls, really good movement, potentially, actually, I might have challenged myself too, if I remember correctly, because I'm like, on one hand, removing a lot of obscuring will actually benefit them, but on the other hand, they had the high mobility to be able to avoid a lot of that shenanigans too. So long story short, I know I'm sitting on the fence here, but I'm actually genuinely surprised that Kharadron is over at the bottom. That one kind of really surprised me. Even OBR to a point. I know OBR's had some change, and I know there was some mixed feelings on the OBR battle tome, but I would have thought they were a little higher than that.
I actually, so I did like a little tier list for myself, and Kharadron Overlords, I actually had an S tier. I thought they were super good, and they looked really strong going into this meta, and I still kind of feel that way. There's a very small sample size. It's 60 total games, so there is that. But I went and DM'd a couple people who are Kharadron Overlord players that I know who are quite good, and asked them some questions about why this is happening. One of them felt like, oh, Kharadron is very strong. It's low sample size, like people probably are learning stuff. You make a mistake with KO and you tend to get blown up, and you're learning a new GHB. They're very fragile, and like that stuff can happen. Same with like Skaven. Like I think Skaven's quite good, but like you make a mistake with Skaven and you're learning a new GHB, that happens. The other player was saying that KO isn't really so much of a shooting army as it is a melee army, and you're seeing a lot of people playing these really intense melee armies that come into these like small areas on maps, and they're just kind of exploding on them. And there's going to be some adaptations going to need to happen for those players. I do still think that Kharadron Overlords is better than this data is showing. In the same way that Fire Slayers is for sure not a it's the same basic sample size. a few wins or losses. I'm gonna keep my eye on that for sure, because like that would surprise me. OBR, I have no idea why it's so low.
Yeah,
Surprising.
there's a few of them where I am genuinely so even like Helsmiths. We are both Helsmith players. Like I don't think that number represents very well, but I think there's a few armies that are sitting at the bottom, even to the top, where it's like you've still got to work out the type of army that's going to do like the back combinations, units that are going to help you, whether it's score your missions, whether it's score your tactics. There's still a lot of figuring out, and some of the Gits, the Skavens, even the IDKs. There's a few of them where I don't think it's truly representative.
Yeah, I think some of them I do think that are fairly accurate. Like I think simultaneously with Deepkin it is and isn't. I think the Marty on Deepkin are looking really, really good. But the flying eels, etc., not having a great time. The missions don't like how centralized all the objectives are. But the Namarti ones are looking pretty good, but people have not been playing Namarti at all for years. So learning how to like completely change your playstyle as an army, you're gonna have some wiggling around. And then like some of the armies that are just like doing quite well, the most ones that are doing quite well, I more or less think are approximately like they really should be up there. I'm one that's actually dead even that surprised me is Nighthawk, but it's also 28 games. So
Yeah,
I thought Nighthawk was going to be the worst army in the game, and they're currently 50%, but only 28 games. So
yeah, I was gonna say watch out for Nighthorn. It has a really low sample size, but also Flesh Eater Courts. Flesh Eater Courts has a good opportunity to play into the General's Handbook, but they've only had 40 games, so I'll be watching this one really closely as well. But I don't want to harp too much on this particular slide. It's just like, where are we currently at? And I think to your point, some factions are still being worked through, and probably why you want to be communities like, AoS Coach, like, or go onto like a Facebook group. You want to be like really getting into the weeds so you can start to make an impact at a tournament. And by the way, here's like the distribution of like where you're at over the last, 5 games, 4 games, 3 games, 2 games, 1 game. Not going to spend too much time on this one purely because of the low sample size. So we'll skip that one. But what I did find really interesting, speaking of my own server, was thanks to friend of the channel, we ran a faction sentiment analysis on my Discord server against all the different rooms to understand, like, how are people feeling? How are you feeling about the General's Handbook? Now, it's only a 7-day run, of the last 7 days, just before we kind of came here. So the dust has settled, the excitement of Ashy, War Scrolls, and abilities have kind of settled. Where are we kind of feeling? And it's really interesting that Hedonites of Slaanesh, even though being one of the top factions right now, has a more negative sentiment. OBR, we just called them out, having a low win rate. They absolutely have a much more negative sentiment as well. Nighthaunt, even though we just saw at least a low sample size doing pretty well, they're feeling okay. But your Blades of Cord, your Zinch, your Seraphon must be loving life compared to where they were. Fire Slayers obviously loving life. Sons of Behemoth loving life. Soulblight, Flesh Eater Courts, Doc, Gitz, even though Gitz had a really low win rate, they're feeling pretty good, actually just as good as Daughters of Cain, which is fascinating in itself.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know if you want to, yeah.
I have some thoughts on this. I didn't actually see this graph until now, but like I do know I have some strong opinions on where something's coming from. So like Hedonites of Slaanesh, their win rate is doing really well, but also I do know that some of the players who have been doing really well with them are like the kind of players who will crush with anything. Like, and the army is incredibly difficult to play optimally. Like the players who I know are doing well with them have like 20 practice games before the GTs, and they're still like struggling to remember all the rules. So for the average player, it's probably very frustrating to like show up like there's like 3,000 tiny rules I'm trying to remember, and it's just like frustrating for them. I don't think Hedonites is like crazy busted. I think they're actually there's like 1 or 2 things that I think maybe are like a little bit of problem, and some things are a little too weak, but we have some really, really good players like Tom Guan, Alec Jerome, a couple other players who've been like crushing tournaments with them, but those players are just incredible players. So maybe people are feeling frustrated that they're not able to keep up with that. Is a guess of mine, but the army does feel good to me. No surprise with Blades of Corn though. Like I think we all know why that's exciting. Everyone is loving Bloodthirst is coming in, smashing stuff. So this is a really cool graph. It's super interesting to me.
Yeah, it is super interesting. I held that one back because I wanted to see what your natural thoughts were. But it's just fascinating to see, again, like Fire Slayers, like look how many messages are there, like 122 messages over the last 7 days. So it's not a big faction, and it's one of the few factions still to get their battle tome. I know there's been rumors of a Fire Slayers, Grumdy, something's happened. We've split the dwarves out of cities now. What comes out? Will it be Fire Slayers with a hero, hero on foot with a battle tome? Is it going to be something bigger? But it's just really interesting. A really low sample size, still really positive. I think that's probably the key here, right? Is that majority of the factions are feeling optimal and positive compared to maybe where they were. Some of them, like your Hedonites of Slaanesh, maybe they're anticipating some nerfs to come down the line. OBR are feeling like potentially they're not keeping track with some of the other factions, or maybe not feeling as positive compared to what others are getting, almost like the grass is greener. But I just found it really interesting that a lot of people are feeling really positive. And I think there's a lot of green shoots to be looking into, regardless of your win rate that you just saw.
This also kind of matches sort of my experience so far at tournaments. Like the energy level and hype people are experiencing is palpable. Like you could feel the level of energy. People are like excited to play this GHB, excited about what their army can do now. Even when they're getting hit super hard with some crazy new rule, they're doing something cool. And the level of hype is really like boiling over right now. People love it.
Yeah. I played a bunch of events and a bunch of like little local things as well. And yeah, people are just enjoying it. People who were really frustrated with Gairan, and I heard a lot of like negativity, like people just unhappy with Gairan, and rightfully so. They've it's almost like the shackles are now like they're free. They're free and they're getting to do cool stuff. The battle plans are fun. The dice are fun, whether they're mitigating damage, whether they are like using rage dice to kill things. They're enjoying it.
And there's also this feeling that I've been experiencing for sure, where like even when you're losing, you constantly have this little like feeling like, but if I do like my guy goes in and I do a bunch of damage and I fight end step and I crack these hot dice on them, I can blow myself back into the game and steal it, which was not the feeling before. A lot of time I felt like once you start losing, you kind of get stuck behind. It's like a little bit. Now it's like there's always, even if it's slim, there's that line you can get there with a couple hot dice, some good plays, like and that's definitely like it's hype. Like it's really fun. So
can I build on that for a sec?
Yeah.
One thing that I'm hearing a lot about, and I know even when we talked about it, like the rage dice on extra attacks is always the sexy, cool thing. But it's the actual damage mitigation, which I think is the sexier thing, because like I had a situation yesterday where I had King Broad on 5 health left and a whole bunch of damage was going into Broad. And I pulled out all of my rage dice and I'm like, I'm just going to burn them all at one go. I don't care if I go down to rage level 0. Don't care. And I kept Broad alive on 3 health. And people love their cool big thing and they hate it, and the mood goes down. The minute you take down the big thing, people's mood goes down. The Vordry, the Marathi, the Lariel, whatever.
Living with one life is the most hype thing ever, right? You're like 1 HP, wow, like it's the best, and you're seeing it. And like I was playing a really goofy Gardeners of Nurgle list at the Palm Springs Open, having a great time, but I had Festus the Leech Lord. I kept him alive on 1 wound like 3 times in a row versus the Fire Slayers player I was playing, and he just kept regenerating, and he'd come down, I'd throw my Fury Dice at it, he'd regenerating, and it was just like, it was super funny. Like was it like breaking the game? No, but it was really fun, and like we're just laughing about it. Like it's a great energy, and it's also cool skill expression as well at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's helping a lot. It's really helping a lot. So kudos to you, GW. I am enjoying the rage dice. It's a lot of fun. So, and then one other thing that I'll call out that you didn't know about is I ran a bit of an analysis as well on the battle plans. Now, again, not every tournament announces their battle plans either in advance in a tournament pack, but I went through BCP and every event I could possibly find, and what are the battle plans that people were running? Now, again, low sample size. These were just 8 events that had announced their battle plans either in a pack or in a deck. But this was what was really interesting to find out, that the most common battle plan that being picked right now was the Power of the Realms. Second was Treacherous Grounds. Then you can see a kind of a split between Caverns, Into the Fire, What's Yours is Ours. Then there's a bit of a split between Avalanche of Ash, Curse of the Nor, Seas of Embers, and then you go into this like low picks of like Bloodstained, Escape, Warped, and then very, very at the bottom under hidden under Ash Clouds. So I thought that was fascinating, because if I was going to a tournament, especially where you've got to submit your list in advance, they don't announce the battle plans until after list submission, and you're trying to work out what are the types of battle plans could be picked, what's likely going to be what I'm facing. This is what I understood. Again, a low sample size, but I kind of looked at this and went, yeah, you know what, that makes a lot of sense.
I
Some
actually
more than others, but yeah.
I have some pretty strong opinions about this and its implication on some of these stats we're seeing. This is something that I was talking to my friends about and analyzing myself a bit, kind of thinking through. And some of the numbers didn't really make too much sense to me on like why certain armies were doing well, certain armies were doing really well. Like KO is kind of doing a little bit bad. There's several different like styles of tournament packs, including this GHB, but like a lot of people, a lot of tournaments have been starting like their first one on like the more centralized packs. Whereas there is like Escape from the Coast, Bloodstained Coast, and Seize the Embers, and Curse of the None, all these ones that require more mobility, that I've been seeing less pick early on. And the armies that really, really shine on those maps haven't had as many tournaments playing as many of them, even though they're great missions. And that's no surprise, because people play with the kind of simpler, more standardized missions at the beginning, tell people to like get their foot in the door, start learning the mission, start learning how it works. So some of these armies that haven't necessarily been shining super bright so far, but seem like they should be, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we haven't been seeing as many packs playing these mobile missions. And like Old Town Throwdown, for example, does have Seize the Embers, etc., like some of these more mobile missions in there. And you might see different armies perform extremely well at Old Town Throwdown compared to what you're seeing in some of these other GTs that are playing the more centralized missions. So missions have a huge impact on meta, on when your army's good. Like, it's not as simple as my army's good or bad. It's like, is it good at this, right? And these missions, way more so than last GHB, every mission is different. Like I was saying earlier, like they really impact how you play. And if you can't play that mission well, you're going to really, really struggle. Whereas E4 is like, well, I can kind of just do my thing. It's like, not necessarily. You have to be able to play the mission. And like some of these missions, when they see more play, I think that you will see them equalize some of these stats, change it up a bit.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You traditionally see the first couple of months you don't have too much complexity. But then as I guess month 5 kind of kicks in and we've all got reps in, we're relatively comfortable, you start seeing more and more of like the Escapes from the Coast, the Warped Runes, the Seas of Embers, even Bloodstained Coast. I really like Bloodstained Coast, for example, but like it actually isn't very represented well. But I know that it's going to be a battle plan that will creep into the packs more often. So just keep an eye on this one. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time on it. Great call outs, by the way. But when you start, even like we talked about this last month, when you look at the battle plans, and actually another thing as well is some tournaments don't have a lot of space to go side to side. So Caverns, for example, is a nightmare if you do not have if you're like rows of tables and there's nothing, no, it's really hard to play. So those types of battle plans, sometimes TOs will just avoid from player experience point of view, where it's actually a really good battle plan, but it's just that I can't facilitate it in the event style that I've got set up.
I've definitely encountered that already, and I was like, but that
I actually played it yesterday. I had the same thing yesterday at the game store. We had 3 tables in a row. We played it, but luckily for Suns, I'm like, bro, you have the side with all the space, because it was Sylvaneth with like all of the models. There was like Gossamids and there was the Twisteds. I'm like, you know what? You have that space. I got 5 models. I'll go on the arse space because I don't care.
Like one of those old school generals with the stick, just pushing your guy, like
like in hockey, like just like ice hockey, not just the push the puck. Push my puck. But anyway, like if you're heading to a tournament and your tournament organizer hasn't announced your battle plans in advance, this might be helpful to anticipate, well, there's more likely going to be out of the 12, maybe these 8 or these 7. And it doesn't make a guarantee, but it might give you a bit of things around to help you. But yeah, it's tell you what, my favorites are actually sitting in the 3. Like, I think for my GT, I picked Caverns, I picked what's ours, yours is ours. I've got like they're all sitting in the middle.
My favorite mission is Escape from the Coast, because it creates such an interesting dynamic, and like every army can play it well, but it's like this constant tension, and every turn you have to like, what am I doing? What do I need to do? What do I like? It's like very much feels like engaging from start to finish, like you're playing a mission, and I love that mission. But a lot of people don't like it, but for me it's super cool. Really fun and engaging.
There are some cool missions. So, because we have a low sample size, and I keep harping on this because I don't want you guys to freak out. Like, not that I think you freak out, but like, let's say with a grain of salt. We're just gonna power through, and what I'm gonna do is we're gonna spend like I'm gonna put this out in the ether. We're gonna spend like a minute per faction, a minute, 2 minutes. We're gonna make this punchy. You obviously can pause this and dig deeper into your faction, but I'm gonna call out some of the key highlights, and we'll just have a quickie. We'll have a quickie. This is a quickie.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll come back next month with a bit more detail as we have more factions. So my high level, Blades of Khorne last time we spoke was at a 52% win rate with a 5.7 popularity. It's now sitting at a 50.5 with a 4% popularity. So popularity has dropped between last report and this report. Their win rate has also dropped a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Couple of things that I will share, but I want to pass it over to Elias first. Anything that you'd want to call out from a Blades of Khorne perspective?
I definitely was expecting sort of an opposite movement on this. It might be small sample size issues, but like they feel strong to me. Their builds are very wide open, and people seem extremely hyped about them. And when I played with and against them, they feel great. So I'm a little bit surprised to see, but it is very early on. It's more of a like the Bloodthirsters seem great. I think some of it might just be that Bloodthirsters are very fun to sling into people without thinking too much, but like they are very powerful. So if you are worried about, I thought Bloodthirsters were gonna be good, I think they still are. So I don't think just 50% is they're good for sure.
The elephant in the room is when I look at the units that have been shifted away or in, obviously like Scourge of Gyrard versus Scourge of Actually, like obviously ignore that for a sec. Scarbrand has disappeared off the list. Last month it was on the list. Scarbrand not on the list.
Weird.
Yeah, so what's dropped out is Scarbrand, Blood Warriors, Blood Secretor, Blood Stoker. What has entered is the Skull Reapers, the Blood Crushers, the Flesh Hounds, and Karanak. So the style has shifted a little bit. We still want our Bloodthirsters. Wrath of Khorne is still number 1. It has been month on month. Insensate Rage is still in there. Even Unfettered Fury still in there. But we're tweaking a little bit.
One thing I have seen is with Scarbrand is that people who are playing Baleful Lords, you can't fit Scarbrand in the same list where you're also putting like a Wrath of Khorne and Insensate Rage without like going down a whole Bloodthirster. And people are like, well, I guess I'll just run a second Insensate Rage, which was, I think, very intentional from GW to make sure you couldn't fit that. And I am seeing a lot of Scarbrands on tables, but a lot of them are the ROR. That you're seeing a lot of Scarbrands because he's 40 points cheaper in other armies. And so you're seeing him a lot like in allied into armies, basically. And he is very good. And I think you're just not seeing him because he'll play Baleful Lords and they can't fit him that perfect way. Like he's just you end up 10 points over or 20 points over and you just can't fit it. So that's my guess as to why you're not seeing him, but I am surprised to see that. Even so.
Yeah, and I was one of those people playing with Scarbrand in my Helsmiths, and it was fun. It was really fun. It was so swingy. It's so swingy, and because I don't get all of the benefits because like there's some of them that are tied to the actual faction I can't tap into. I'm like, I'm putting a lot of resources into this, so yeah. Khorne basically elevator story is you're doing well. It's consistent. Some minor tweaks. Move along.
Yeah.
Disciples of Tzeentch. last time we spoke, 57% win rate and 5.7% representation. This month is 55.9% win rate, so we've slightly dipped 1.5 basis points. And more alarming is the win rate has almost halved, where it was 5.7, it's now 3.3. So we're still a good faction. We're still really good, but we've dropped in popularity. So
I have opinions on why that is.
Cool.
I think that the soggy stuff was kind of providing this hammer the army should not have had access to. It was doing way too much damage, and the people who like really wanted to smash people with it were playing that, and they lost that. And so there wasn't this like path to just sort of blow people off the table. And the army is very, very challenging to play optimally. It's very like you're like mentally, even if you're really experienced, like you can't just like kind of casually play Tzeentch. You have to be like locked in the whole time. And so the kind of casual angle that it had left, but it's still a very strong army. It's just some of the players who want to be more relaxed in their games probably don't want to play Tzeentch as it is now, even though it's very, very strong. So that's probably why the popularity is dropping, is my guess. But the army feels great. It's more fun as an opponent than before, because they're jumping around the table, being super annoying, and when you try to catch them, trying to pin them down, you can't really. But they're also not really like killing you that much, so you're doing your stuff, and it's to me at least, it's way more fun as an opponent. And I still think they're very good. And the one thing I want to highlight that I am mildly annoyed about is they didn't change Silver Summoner, and it's still said that like everyone's just picking that, and it's like, why didn't you fix that, please? Like, it's so crazy, but
it's so wild. But you can see there the win distribution rate. You're averaging around the 3 wins. You know, you've had a couple of 4 wins, 1 5 win, but you're sitting in this healthy kind of middle. I will call out one thing, I'll just build upon what you've said, is that there is a bit of a shift happening in the style of, and if you look at your key units, yes, your Carrick Acolytes, which were Scourge of Gairan, has dropped out. And I think that's with that has shifted from a more mortal side to a more demon side as you start seeing Screamers entering the fold, Lord of Change entering the fold, your Flamers entering the fold as some of your popular units. So that mortally side of leaning into your Zangors and your Acolytes seems to be shifting slightly to a more demonic side. So just one that just keep an eye on. Just keep an eye on.
Definitely. My Tzeentch friends love the new Screamers, by the way. Just want to say that they're having a ton of fun with it, and they think it's the coolest thing ever. So
yeah, I was a big fan of old Screamers, but I couldn't do it to myself. I'm like, man, I need to reinforce this. Then it's 180 points. I could do so much with 180 points. I love the 3d6 charge on manifestations, but yeah, this new Ashy one is nice.
It's really cool.
It's healthy. It's healthy. 55% win rate. We're doing pretty well, Tzeentch. Slaanesh. What's happened with Slaanesh? So we've seen a shift. We've obviously seen the win rate was 50%, 50.4, and it was a 1.3% representation. It's now obviously blown out. You got a new Battle Tome, which is now a 61.5% win rate, a 3.7. So Slaanesh players are putting their toys back on the table. I'll let you.
Yeah. So I do play Slaanesh. I haven't been playing them in tournaments, but I do pay close attention to them, and I talk to a lot of Slaanesh players frequently, and I've been watching them play. I do think like Slaanesh is strong. I think probably not a 62% level strength, but a lot of the strength is coming from Depraved Carnival. It's really, really like super strong, lets them move around the table, helps them recover from mistakes. And I also think Hedonites of Slaanesh is very, very good on those closed map things that I was talking about, like the map I see will pick early. You're seeing a little bit of inflated win rate, but the army does feel very good. It feels powerful. It feels resilient, and it plays a 5-turn game. It's very hard to shut down, and it's really good at shutting you down. I don't think it's as strong as it's showing, though. I think this is like a little bit of a smaller data set. Really, really good players have been jumping onto it because they're hyped about how intricate the mechanics are. And you're seeing some pretty strong stuff coming out of it. The demon side is suffering a little bit, but I don't think the demons are actually bad. They're just not as good as like 30 Painbreakers has been being. They're still, in my opinion, the demons. Like I'm personally have been kind of finishing up my more of my demons because I want to play them soon. Because I didn't have enough to put a full army onto the table finished. But they're doing they're pretty good. I think people are getting negative about them in some things and overhyping them in others. It's kind of a mixed bag that you're seeing, as we saw by the graph you were showing. But I don't think they're as much of a problem as it looks.
I think the interesting thing there is that there is no bell curve, right? Where traditionally there'll be a bell curve where it'll go 1, 2, 3. That trend is not there. If you look at it, it's more of a roller coaster where it's like top of 3 and then 4 and 5, where that two win distribution at a 5-game GT is not really there. So either you're probably sitting at like the 0, 1, and 2, and they're maybe newer players or maybe not as competitive nature. Then you've got this like baseline of 3. The thing I'll call out with my elevator pitch is you look at Glutos, Sigvald, and the Lord of Gluttony have dropped out. Sorry, Sigvald. Sigvald have dropped out. And what you've entered is the Masked, Thricefold, Lord of Asteria, and Shard Speaker have all become some of the top units. I can't remember if Fiends have, is it Fiends? Fiends, did they have the strike last and now they're anti-wizard, or what is it?
They're
Fiends?
like anti-magic based now. I still kind of interesting. I like them, but people aren't playing them.
But their role has changed a little bit, where they used to have some really nice abilities. I think they've dropped out a little bit as well. And then Blizzbarb Seekers have now just swapped out to be the Akshi version. So they're still popular, but people have leaned into the Akshi version over the generic one.
Definitely the Akshi ones are a little undercosted, I think. Like 150 for 5 of them is kind of too cheap. So you're seeing some of that. Yeah, I think it's more of a case of like something that's being a little too good as opposed to like the ones that aren't seeing play not being good. It's kind of my thing on it. Like if you're showing up with like the stuff that isn't on this most popular unit, you're still gonna have like a good army. It's not gonna feel like, oh, I'm playing trash. It's just like you're probably better playing the stuff that's a little undercosted right now, but it's still good.
Yeah, I played a few games into Slaanesh, having like, big blocks of Demonettes, having Keeper of Secret, having what's the harp lady's name?
Man, I know
Shard Speaker. Yeah. Like I played in some nice little lists into them. So they're not. Yeah, there's definitely more of a mortal focus on this one. Speaking of mortals, or I guess dwarf mortals who are also chaotic, Helsmiths. I thought that this would climb a little bit, but I think we've got an identity crisis losing the industrial polluters. I know a lot of people like to run Orektar's Army of Renown over the generic. But you've also seen the rise of the Bullfather's Horns, which is probably, again, this has been one of my biggest issues, is the battle formations in Helsmiths. Yeah. Just FYI, their win rate has dropped. So even though the representation rate has been consistent, 3.1 month on month, what you have seen is the dip where they were winning at 49.4%. They've now dropped to 41%, which I found really interesting. And partially, and I know what you're going to say, partially I think is because we had the War Despot crux of the Scourge of Gairan, in addition to industrial polluters. And this, more than ever, I wish I had industrial polluters. Yeah. But you are seeing some tweaks here in the list. And I think more and more people are trying the Forge host.
Yeah, I definitely. So just last night, I was talking to some Helsmiths players, and like in person, we were just chatting about it, and some of the things is like they were leaning on the soggy despot, and they've been running it. They like been making mistakes basically, and like the blunderbusses have been letting them down over and over again, whereas they've been liking the razors more because they still play when things go wrong. And there's just a little bit of an adjustment period of people's lists fluctuating quite heavily. Running into problems that were previously they had stuff to get out of, and now they can't. And what was good is not the same as what is good. So you're seeing some of that. I'm definitely surprised by their win rate because they do not feel weak to me. But I do think I don't like razors. I mean, I've been very vocal. I've been obnoxiously vocal about it. I hate razors, but I think they really, really, really struggle without the soggy scrolls. And I think by trying to play them without access to ways to basically get out of jail free, kind of get out of the little things that inevitably happen in games, people are suffering for that and learning currently is my guess. Because they don't feel like the 41 is like shocking to me to see that because they feel really strong, or at least solid. But I would say on the slightly stronger end of middle, to me.
I think the 41% represents the fact that people haven't got most armies. You go into my Discord or any other faction chat, there's usually one or two lists that have kind of emerged as a popular list. I think Helsmith's still trying to work out what's the popular list. Do you go in with all the bulls and tap into the new soggy anointeds? How many rockets do you have? Rockets are inconsistent. Do you have one? Do you have two? Do you have three? You've seen Doom Bulls, the Dom engines kind of entering the chat now. There's a lot of mixed conversation in Helsmith's, and I don't think anyone's landed on the core of the army. And I think even the fact that the Forge host is really popular is splitting the community, because you've got everyone going all in on infantry, and then all of those of us who are trying to work out the rest. So
yeah,
I don't think it's as bad as what it says here. I had a lot of fun with Helsmiths. I had a lot of success with Helsmiths, much greater than 41%. But I don't think there's a list right yet that people have like nailed as like, this is currently what's good. But you're seeing Hobgrots jumping as well. You're seeing a whole bunch of stuff. So
Hobgrots looking great. So
keep working it through. This is not as bad as it is. I'm willing to put my hat on that.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed.
Maggotkin of Nurgle. So they were 53.1% win rate with a 7.1% representation. They have dipped both in competitiveness and also in popularity. So they've gone for 51.9% win rate with a 44.5% representation rate. So they're dropping. Probably no surprise losing soggy.
Yeah, they're just like I think they're pretty much perfect right now. Like this army is perfectly balanced almost. There's very little I would like, other than I think these spicy knights need to drop points a little bit, but everything else feels good. Like army feels well balanced. I was playing Guardians of Nurgle for fun, and I had an absolute blast. That army's really fun. I highly recommend it. If you can get your hands on trees, it's really fun. It's not overpowered, but it's about as good as regular Nurgle, and it's really fun. The army feels good. There's lots of builds. It's flexible. It plays a fair game. Like I think Nurgle is exactly where it should be right now.
I think they'll only get better. I think they'll only get better. Like you talked about the closest of the battle plans. I think rewarding, not being conservative, being in the middle. That's exactly how Nurgle wants to play. Interestingly, I will call out that Sloven Knights have dropped out of the top picks, which I found fascinating. A lot of people love their Sloven Knights combined with the Rot Swords as a bit of a 1-2 punch. But your Great Unclean Ones come in. Horticulus has come in. Interestingly enough, Plague Drones have come in as top picks. And then your actually Putrid Blight King. So I found that really interesting. Pestigore have dropped out. The Harbinger of Decay has also dropped out. It seems like, much like Tzeentch, we are moving towards a more demonic side rather than a mortal side.
Yeah,
at least that's what the early trends appear.
I think one of the things you'll see in general is people kind of trending away from like armor saves as much, in many cases, because there's a lot of like really, really turbo hammers. Like things that will just kill anything they touch, even with armor saves. So you see less commonly people relying on like durable fighting units across the board, and you'll see like mortals are more in that range. Whereas like a pure tar pit that just is cheap and sucks you down is still really good. But if you're paying points for like something that also is like a brawler, sometimes it's like you're gonna fight those matchups where like someone's just got like the Turbo Scarbrand who will kill you anyway. So you're seeing a little bit less of that, but it doesn't mean they're bad. It's just that like now there's like more ways to break those sort of units. So you're not seeing them dominate. It's more balanced across the board for Nurgle.
Yeah, and you're seeing that with Plague Bearers and Rot Swords being your top picks there, right? So I think you're in a good spot. I'm curious to see how Plague Drones are being played. That one surprised me, but also doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And I was going to say like that Gardens of Nurgle has popped up significantly. It wasn't an Army of Renowned it wasn't popular last report, but it's jumped in this report.
It's because you can't charge their terrain pieces anymore.
Yeah.
So when you make a wall of trees, it's a lot more annoying to deal with it. It's still deal like it's not like busted, but it's now you can do your cool little build a garden thing and not getting punished for it. So it's really fun.
Yes.
It's annoying.
Yes.
You get to go
Yeah.
all the
I
time.
knew there'd be some people who would weaponize it, and Nurgle is a perfect example of weaponizing the changes to terrain and not being able to charge non-garrisonable terrain. There's always going to be one of you, and I would put money down on Nurgle. Naughty, naughty. Skaven's an interesting one too, and in fact, their win rate has also dipped, even though the popularities remain consistent. So they were at a 43.5% win rate and a 5.5 representation. They're at a 37.6 win rate and a 5.2. I'm really put my hat on this one as well. That's not reflective of this army. This is absolutely not reflective of this army. Skaven is so much better than this. And I do wonder if it is a similar vein of people still trying to work out what the Skaven list is. And with so many models in this army, it's hard to find the right combination.
Yeah. The army to me is like, when I saw this number, I was like, that's crazy. Because like the army, it's just not like busted, but it's definitely very good right now. It's extremely hard to play. Always has been. That's kind of Skaven's thing. But like a lot of players I know who play Skaven at a high level are like feeling very good about Skaven right now. Like no one I know who plays a lot of Skaven is like, oh, Skaven's weak. They're like, no, it's good. But little mistakes, the House of Cards can fall, and it's a new JHB is maybe my guess. But I'm surprised by this number personally.
I think what is possibly happening is last edition or last season had a bit more of a Molder flavor where you had your Gairan Brood Terror. You likely backed it up with a Hell Pit Abomination or one or the other. You had a bit of a Molder flavor. Now that the soggy Brood Terror has disappeared, which also might have disincentivized the Hell Pit, I'm personally seeing more of my Skaven opponents leaning more into Scryer. I'm seeing a lot more Storm Fiends on the table. I'm seeing more Rat Ogres and multiples of Rat Ogres on the table. I don't know if that's reflective or true of every Skaven player, but I feel like there's that void that the Brood Terror and or the Hell Pit has created that people are trying to what fills that spot, and then what needs to support that spot.
Yeah, and like exactly how many of each model you bring, exactly what you're doing, what exact battle types you're doing, like, and you have to like really. It's one of those armies is very intricate and many moving pieces, so like getting the exact right build is a challenging thing. So that's probably what's going on. That's my best guess as well, because it army feels great. Like, and I've been watching people play, and I'm like, this looks super strong.
Storm Fiends cost a lot of points. Like when because you don't take Storm Fiends normally in a minimum size unit, you reinforce them. Then you add a Vermin Lord of some description. You're close to, if not more than 1,000 points.
Yeah,
like it's a lot of investment just in 2 units.
Yeah. That maybe it's just like people who haven't, because Storm Fiends have seen almost no play for the past 2 years. So like they're bringing them on the table first time. They're doing those things that the first time you play with the unit again, you're like, I messed it up. And that one mistake cost that game. And like, you sort of have to learn the hard way again. And then we start playing something. It's kind of like the Namardi with Idoneth and stuff like that, where like people have to shake the rust off a little bit on how to play that way. So maybe that's what's going on.
One more thing I do want to add to the chat in a second. I just want to triple check what I'm going to say is the actual name of the unit. There's so many units, it's not funny. Yes. And I actually saw it yesterday at the game store. So what I am seeing as well, if you look at the key units, is Doomflayers have returned as popular pick. A reinforced unit of Doomflayer. They're so fucking good.
Dude, they're so cool. They hit so hard. Like, you're like, oh, still got...
Also will they're ridiculous. But also you've seen the Warp Vault Scourger and the Rattling Guns re-entering the fold. So with the drop of obscuring or as much obscuring, you are seeing more of that Skaven shooty kind of style is popping up. So
yeah, I wonder if you'll start seeing like 18 Rattling Gun lists again.
God,
that stuff is
not again.
Get that clock out because they're rolling dice for like 30 minutes.
God, let's go back. Just go back to Gairan. I revoke what I just said. Slaves is an interesting one as well. I thought they would go up a little more than they did, but they've been relatively consistent. So last time it was a 46.2% with a 5% representation rate. They've slightly gone down one basis point. So it's less than a basis point. It's 45.6% win rate with a 5.3 representation rate. So representation has slightly gone up, but the win rate's slightly gone down.
Yeah,
This was
so
surprised. I thought they would do a little better.
I am not at all surprised by this, but I do
Really?
think I do play specifically Dark Oath. One thing that you're seeing is the Dark Flame Pendant is doing quite well, and I think it is helping Slaves of Darkness standard lists play better. It definitely helps them a lot. A Demon Prince or a Carcadrak, whatever it's with Dark Flame Pendant is really helping them stay in the game better, have some play into things they didn't have before. Like, that's great. Root of Murder's win rate's a little bit low because it's very hard to play with properly, and it seems really easy to play, and you mess it up once and your guy dies, and it's like, whatever. But Dark Oath, I think, is an very strong spot.
Yes.
Like, I haven't lost any of my practice games or even had them be close so far. And I know some of the Dark Oath players are like, this army is very strong. They play the battle tactics better than most armies do. They're really well positioned, and the Rune of Murder is like super good in Dark Oath. Same with Brand of Apoplexy. But what you're seeing is, remember I was talking earlier about how like armor saves are kind of not at a premium right now. That's really holding Slaves down, because like you could show up with like Chose went down, right? But your 3+ save isn't going to protect you from, say, a buffed up rattling gun unit shooting you hide from anymore. You're going to lose too much to that, and there's a lot of situations where your safe just isn't getting there when it previously may have been enough, and you had all the terrain to hide it. So you're seeing this sort of contextual problem where what they're really good at isn't great, but the units are doing better, and I actually think they feel a lot better on the table. The win rate, though, like you're gonna have matchups that are just super, super hard for standard Slaves, but like they do feel a lot better on the table, and they aren't as frustrating to play as. I do think they need some more drops still. I think Archeon needs to go down. They didn't reduce him because probably worried about what might happen, but he's still too many points. I still think Chosen are too expensive. Chosen should be like 230. They'd be like pretty good at 230, I think. But they're getting there, and they don't feel terrible. They're just very fair, and there's a lot of extremely high damage happening right now that your medium tanky units like Chosen struggle with. The Warriors feel super cool. They're really dope. I underestimated how good they'd be on the table. When I saw them in action, I was like, okay, this is actually really cool. The new actually ones.
Yeah. So interesting you bring up the Dark Oath, because I think we've talked for a few months now. Like, I think every time we talk about Slaves, we talk about Dark Oath, and we talk about having a hybrid Slaves list where you've got some Dark Oath, might be 30%, might be 50%, but we've seen in the last 3 to 5 months that Dark Oath has been the shining light in Slaves. But then when you look at the key units being chosen, they're not there. So I don't know if it's people are choosing not to take them because it's just not what drew me to Slaves. What drew me to Slaves is all the trim and all the metal. And I love my Varangard, my Chosen, my Knights, my Bellacore, because they've remained consistent month on month. Those units remain consistent. Yet we're not seeing Dark Oath entering the fold. The amount of Dark Oath armies or based armies I've got into where it's just hordes of trash. It's just hordes of reinforced Dark Oath, whether it's Fell Riders for speed, whether it's idiots on foot. It creates a new problem, and it allows you to then maximize your warriors, your Chosen, your Varangard, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're just not seeing it on the unit selection.
I think a big part of it is that a lot of the people who like Slaves of Darkness, they really were drawn in by the kind of Chaos Warrior aesthetic, and not so much by the hordes of Marauders. I always loved, when I very first started, I always loved the stories of the Marauders, more human element. They're kind of like the Chaos version of Empire, Like, I've always loved that. To me, that really captures it, but a lot of players don't necessarily resonate with them. The other thing is the production meta, as some people say. Painting like 80 plus Marauders is a lot to ask for most people. I love painting them. To me, I love the little character stuff I put on them, and like for me, it's like, oh, it's my jam. But for most players, they're like another 8-point model I have to paint. Like, so
I get it. I get it. When I play my doc, I try to refuse as much as possible to play snakes, because that's not what I got in docs for. I didn't want to play snakes. I want to play murder strippers, and that's what I put on the table. So I recognize the reluctance. I 100% understand it. But maybe that's where my surprise was. I thought you would start to see more and more. We've given them enough time. Bring some Dark Earth into your army. I'm not going to harp on this too long. Just start painting them now.
Try it out. Just play a couple. Like
just start painting them now. You'll be ready for next month. Death, Flesh Eater Courts. Relatively consistent, actually. So their win rate has remained relatively the same. So it was 56.7, now 56.3. Similar. But what has gone down has been their representation rate. We did see them with a really high win rate earlier in the show and such a low sample size. They were a 4.2 representation. They're now 1.7, which is fascinating because like
I don't understand why. Like
that one really surprised.
They seem like exactly what you want in Ashy. They got some cool stuff. They're well positioned. They're clearly strong. Oh, it's a small sample, right? But like this is kind of more or less where I would have expected to be. The dragons are looking dope. The missions are really good for them. They're good for battle tactics. Like I have no idea why they're so unpopular right now. I truly don't have any idea.
Well, it's interesting because when you look at the unit selection, they've moved away from the Zombie Dragon and the Terrorgeist build. And I know there's been some points adjustments, and but what you've seen is people really leaning into crypt horrors. So things like your Gore Warden, your Haunted Courtier, your Arch Regent, your Akshi Vargulf Courtier, they're all becoming more popular. So the shape of the army has actually changed. And maybe that's why people were loving their zombie dragons and terrorgeists, and that's what got them into the army. We're now going into like horrors, flayers. We're going into more of the infantry style. And maybe that's where people are like, well, I only want to play dragons, or I was only playing the faction because I wanted terrorgeist zombie dragons. Then I'll go somewhere else.
They also were at a truly absurd power level with the dragons, so you probably saw a lot of popularity increases. People were jumping to win tournaments for free, kind of. You know, they're like 72% win rate globally with like 400 games, like crazy broken. So them getting nerfed out, people are like, all the people who are just bandwagoning on probably like, all right, you can have your effect models back, friend who I borrowed them from. Which maybe that's why the popularity's dropped, but they're still really good. Like 56% is very high, and I know that's a small sample size, but they probably are right around the 55 area. Like it's still really good. So if you like Veg, like they're in a good spot.
Yeah, it's the popularity that surprises me. I would have imagined, again, in a much more melee focus, rage dice, being able to use the damage mitigant to like Ushran, knowing how important he is, and you often bodyguard Ushran. This just seemed like a dream for me. So I'd be curious to see how this one unfolds. But again, low sample size. I'm not too worried about it. But if the trend continues, then we got some things to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Maybe it's effect discussion that I have with a player. Well,
yeah,
this one surprises me. It really does surprise me. This one, on the other hand, Nighthaunt, like. People have been very negative on Nighthaunt. They have not been happy for a long time. But here we are. You've got 5 basis points when it comes to your win percentage. So you've gone 45.5 to 50.0. But your representation rate has gone from 2.1 to 1.2. So
like the win rate's 50%, but also I think that's partially Madigan. She's real fucking good.
Is she running Nighthaunt? Is that what she's running now?
And she's really, really good. But like even so, like the army, it didn't gain anything from Ashy. It only suffers. Everything's overcosted. Like not everything, all the heroes are now kind of perfectly costed, but the infantry is like, why is this so expensive? Like you look at like any other infantry, and I said from like day one, like this unit's 210 points, and it would be like okay at 170, so they're just in a bad spot. The points really, really, really hold them back from doing what they want to do. I I do really like the new Ashy stuff for them, and I do think there is a build of Nighthaunt that's highly competitive, which is if you play Nagash with the new Spirit Hosts, and he went way down in points, and you can play, like, he really helps him a lot, and he's in a way better position, and he now has really good support to help him. So I think that is actually genuinely quite good and very scary to fight. But the rest of the army, it's kind of awful to play as, and they're supposed to be this like tanky, grindy castle, but they're overcosted, so they just kind of don't get there, and it's not very fun for either player really. But the Nagash builds are really cool, so there is a shining light here at least.
I'm glad you went there, because something that I've been struggling with for a long time has been their identity. The new Battle Tome changed that charge, high speed movement kind of style of faction to one that's more grindy, more castle-y. You saw Kurdos become, the Cruel Gust become really popular. You've started to see that kind of like, you've seen that style kind of playing out. And I wonder, one, if that is hampering the play style, but then two, to your point, a whole bunch of points are not allowing you to really do what you want to do. And you're right, Scourge of Actually hasn't been that friendly to them. Even Scourge of Gairan wasn't that friendly to them. And, we've continued to keep the Black Coach going from Scourge of Gairan to Actually. And I wonder, if the Nighthaunt players got to choose what they wanted, would you be revisiting something else? Like, would you be doing something completely different? And maybe the last year or two they've been missing the mark, and that's why they've dropped in popularity, they've dropped in performance. It's something more to the core, like Gitz. Gitz at its core, I think, is rotten, and it needs to be fixed. It's no points adjustment, no tweak is going to improve them, other than like abusive spam, basically crap free.
Yeah, my opinion is that Nighthaunt has some of that, but a lot of it is points. I think it's kind of both. Gitz, it's like you can't really fix it, unfortunately. Nighthaunt, I do think
definitely rewrite the thing.
Nighthaunt, I do think you can fix. Like I think, like, if you like a lot of these infantry units that are like supposed to be durable, grindy units, they are just inefficient. Like in whose world are like the guys who they're 6 up safe out ward, and then they're like not super hard hitting, but they have a lot of access to support pieces. But like Ard boys are 160, you know what I mean? And these guys are 200 and not as good as Ard boys. And if they were 160, you see people play these like bricks of these ghosts and trying to like, can you kill all these ghosts? And they're hitting you back the whole time. They're getting all these buffs and stuff like that. But you can't do that because they're just too expensive. So you can't play enough models to do the thing you're trying to do. And that's very like, I think you can fix that aspect of it. And there is a lot of cool rules. Like a lot of the heroes do really cool stuff, but just can't afford to play them with models. So
agreed. I agree. Yeah, this is something that I think we'll keep an eye out for the next 3 months to see what the next Battlescroll does, and hopefully we see some points differences.
Yeah.
But I think the signs are positive in the very small sample size. I think this season is definitely more kinder to them. So hopefully we start to see some things get unlocked, and maybe Maggotkin can stop winning and then actually have a real representation rate. And then, so like, if you guys don't get any points adjustments, you can blame Maddie because she's been winning more, and like doing Tom Guan to your faction. So
yeah,
Maddie, this is on you. This is on you. Go help OBR. Go help someone else.
Yeah.
Speaking of OBR, here's an army that really does need some help. And I don't know what to say about OBR. I really don't, because it's had one of the biggest declines. That's where I'm struggling to pinpoint it, because they've gone from a 49.4% win rate to a 37% win rate.
And only got buffs, right? And like the context is only good for them. Like I have it doesn't make any sense to me. And I've played against them a couple times, and I'm like, this army feels like not like crazy, but like totally fine. Like the games all felt like, oh, like very skill oriented. Like whoever plays better is gonna probably win this game. I didn't feel like I was playing a weak army in any way. Nor did I feel like I was playing an overpowered army. I have no idea why it's this low. There's certain units I'm not surprised aren't doing well, but as an overall win rate, it's shocking to me. One thing I do want to point out that we're not seeing still after points changes is Catacross and Catacross related things. We're still not seeing those. We're still not seeing the Morghast see heavy play, because they're still like the support. The package just isn't there, so like that's not surprising. The chariots are a little wonky, priced a little off, but like the core of the army feels strong every time I play against it. So I'm not sure.
It's interesting. You say you're not surprised. I am surprised. In our GHB video, I had said that this might be the time to see things like Morghast Harbingers come back. Like Harbingers, like with the amount of potential monsters and monster heroes hitting the table, this would be a great pick alternatively to go start hunting those units down. Interestingly enough, Arcan the Black has disappeared. Arcan had become popular for a little bit in the last season. Arcan's now dropped out, to your point. Special K has also not been in there. So you're seeing a real trend where it's going towards more of like the Liege Cavalos or some type of generic hero or heroes. So for your RDP access, you are seeing your Necropolis Stalkers returning. Tyrannic Cohort has also entered the picks. So what have you got there? You've got a whole bunch of elite units, right? You've got, whether it's your Death Riders, you've got your Stalkers, you've got your Archai, you've got your Mortis Guard. So we've gone more to that style of build, which was that early fourth? Early fourth was much more around a Mortis Guard and Stalkers.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're definitely seeing like people play Decapolis Death Rider spam stuff to some success. I think like with the Special K and the Morghast and stuff like that, I think part of it is it's that Catacross is still overcosted. He was insane before with 500 the product, and now he's 470, probably needs to be closer to like at least 450. And we'll see from there. But then also like I was with Nib, the guy who rebuilds models and off of dead things, the monster thing. That it can bring back Archive and more guys, stuff like that. But he's also a little overcosted at 200. He probably should be like 180, 170. So you're seeing kind of like the package there overall cost too much, as opposed to like the Morghast are good, but all the stuff that really synergizes well with them is a little overcosted. So that they're not seeing play, but I think they're like they have potential, just a little bit of a points issue. But 37 is shocking to me. It really is.
They've always been a faction that is sensitive to points because they've got so few units and they cost so much that any wrong move and you're over by 5, 10, 20 points. What's fascinating to me is that 4-0 wins at a 5-game or more tournament. So I don't think I find that really interesting.
That's really interesting, and you don't see that kind of thing happen often. It's a little surprising. Maybe it's just like early data skewing things, or some people just did really poorly in a couple events and kind of skewed the data a little bit. We'll see.
Again, nothing to worry about just yet, but it certainly surprised me because I don't think this is not the time to drop your OBR because you think like this season's done for you. I don't agree with that. Do I think you're like a 5-0 potential? Like you might have a little bit of hard work to do, but I don't think this is a true representation of you. So OBR, keep fighting the good fight. Soulblight has certainly seen a spike. You went from 47.2% win rate up to 57.6. You've also seen your representation go from 5.1 down to 3.7. So some people have filtered off, but in that you've actually increased by 10 basis points your win percentage. So we know that these are one of your top 5. And when we start looking at the build, you've got your Necromancer, your Fellbats, your Direwolves, your Zombies, and Manfred all being popular picks. Certainly Zombies. Like, when was the last time we saw Zombies hitting the fold? That reminds me of like when Tom Guan was running like 200 of them. Like we had absolute just walls of like zombies and those corpse carts and necromancers. It's been mostly around your Barrow Guard, your Blood Knights, your Barrow Knights, Manfred.
I do know a little bit of context here. So for one, Deadwalker Zombies do really, really good to Never Dead. It's pretty cool. Like synergy, people are really liking that. So you get to play a little bit more that classic style. But one thing that people have been talking about a lot is that the Ashy Vengorian Lord's ability is extremely impactful, and is surprising a lot of people. But the first time playing against it, they're like, oh, that's how that works. And then they get caught out really, really bad, and they're losing their games because it's a very, very special, unique mechanic that's really like, and I don't think that like 57% I think is higher than it actually is. I do think Soulblight's in a good spot. But there's these really powerful plays that the first time you play against it, it's hard to wrap your head around the implications of it, and you play against, you're like, oh, I lost the game when it happens, and which is really kind of fun when you have something like cool like that the first time you play against. But there's a lot of counterplay and stuff like that. I think the army's in a better spot than I initially was expecting them to be. I had rated them quite poorly because they were trying to play too fair of a game against what I was expecting to be a very dynamic, unfair meta. But they're performing definitely better than I would have expected. And it seems like everyone's having a good time, and there's a pretty wide variety of builds showing up.
Yeah, I would have had the middle of the pack. I wouldn't have said that they were. This result surprises me. But what's really interesting as well, I didn't think they would ditch this as quick as they did, but Prince Vordry and that vampire style of list seems to be dropping out in favor to more of this Dead Walker or even Skelly build, where that's where Manfred's really starts to come in. You know, Necromancer started to come in. You still got your Blood Knights, but like not seeing Vordry around. Even Yvengo Lord has dropped out. Radica has dropped out as well. So they've gone away from what was potentially like a really aggressive build to much more of like slowing down, grinding it out. And even what you were saying earlier about, you know, walls of trash and like not worrying so much about the armor save, where your high vampire Blood Knights have a really high armor save, but you still keep your Barrow Guard Knights, having your, I'm assuming it's still going to be there, your White King on Steed to support your Barrow Knights. So that style is still around. It's just that we've brought it to bring in a bit more diversity. And yeah.
Also, like the maps that are getting selected in a lot of these early GTs, also quite good with these infantry builds of Soulblight. Like, we're very centralized. So that's also part of the story, I think, here as well. And you might see more Vordry and Blood Knights and stuff like that showing up more on people get a pack, and that's like a lot more the open wide missions where the cavalry is going to do a little bit better. But I see some stuff like that because a lot of people do kind of build their list to the pack and see what's happening. Like, okay, well, there's a lot of movement here, so I need to bring Vordry versus not. So I still think he's good. I'm surprised to see him not even on this list. It's kind of surprised. A lot of things are surprised with the Soulblight stats, but we'll see. We'll see how this develops. I'm curious. I'm gonna watch this one pretty closely.
Yeah, I thought he would drop out eventually. I didn't think it'd be as quick as this. I was very surprised. So yeah, anyway, interesting. Let's keep an eye on Soulblight and see where they go, but they're all doing quite well. Very well, actually. I was going to say something about Soulblight, but I've forgotten. So I'm just going to keep moving along to the fun factions. So here is fun time.
The cool kids club over here.
Cool kid club. Gloomspite Gitz. I wish we would have started with someone who wasn't, because they got the coolest models in the army, but in the game, their win rate continues to decline. So we went from a 42.2 to a 38.5. But their representation rate was relatively consistent from a 4.9 to a 4.7. So these people will play Gitz and they don't care how they're going. They will just keep playing Gitz because they are fun and have the coolest models. Your Snarlfang Cavalry have dropped out. Your Mangler Squig has returned, and we did have that as a prediction of someone who's going to be a nice recipient of Rage Dice. But your Rock Guards, Scraggy, your Droz, your Trog, Squigs, they're still pretty consistent. Like, the shape of the army hasn't really changed too much. Like, actually, from a key unit perspective, that's probably been some of the least that's switched around. And maybe that's because as well they weren't that impacted by Scourge of Gairan. Like, there wasn't a lot of soggy war scrolls that were as dependable as like some of the other factions.
Yeah, I think like they didn't lose that, like nothing really left for them, and they gained some new rules. They kind of helped the same units that were already pretty good in the army, I think, and don't really affect the units that weren't doing well. Like Trogs were already on the better side of things, and they got rules that really helped Trogs.
Yeah,
Squigs are already pretty good. The rules didn't change for Squigs at all, but the units that were suffering did not get help really, and unfortunately, spiders are just not a thing. So, I don't think you could fix. There's nothing you can do with those.
Just get rid of, like, you got to commit or get rid of.
Yeah, either make them playable or get rid of them. Like, pick one. Like, it's been like 5-6 years of them just not even having a vaguely playable army. So that's frustrating. But the Trogs feel pretty good, but they really struggle with battle tactics. I think is more the story here with the win rate for Trogs. Like, the battle tactics are very hard to get with Trogs, and they always have been, but they're even harder than before. You're really going to struggle to do that. So I think that's probably where the lower win rate comes from. Like, they fight solidly, they score primary pretty well, but battle tactics are very, very tough. And you can kind of see in the battle tactics combinations, like, there's a lot of different ones people are trying out. There's not like a really clear one of I can get this. It's like, they're all pretty hard. So that's probably part of this story here.
Yeah, that's actually really good. That is that the army hasn't really changed shape very much, and probably you're right. Like, the Trogs still, and they're a really good recipient for the non-hero enhancement from Scourge of Akshi. Like, that were the first thing I thought about. Like, a reinforced unit of rock guards, give them one of them, just makes them much better. But it's what surrounds them as well. And interestingly, no Fellwater Troggoths coming in, given the Akshi War Scroll. So that hasn't picked up any traction just yet. But you're right. The combination of battle tactic is probably like trying to find that right spot, and then what they need to get them. So
yeah,
keep fighting it out. We'll work it out eventually. And I think it's
they might climb a little bit from here. I would think, like, they're not like a powerhouse army, but I think they probably are a little bit better than 38%. But the battle tactics, I think, is the hardest thing. Like, the strongest fighting armies for Gitz are abysmal at battle tactics, and the ones that are good at battle tactics are abysmal at fighting. Like, the dogs and stuff, like, you can't really win a fight with them most of the time. So it's kind of it's a tough one. It's definitely not a easy nut to crack.
Yeah. I think the success is going to come down to the combination between Trogs and Squigs. Unfortunately, I think that's if I was going to play Gitz right now, I'd be taking some type of combination, 60-40 kind of combo. I don't know which one I would do, but I would probably be going 60-40 with those two types of units.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Your faction, Iron Jaws.
Yeah,
Iron Jaws.
They're awesome right now. Iron Jaws are, like, fantastic. You can play almost anything, and it's very competitive without being busted at all. Like, if you're winning your games, you're winning them for you. If you're losing them, you're losing them for you, sort of thing. The new brutes have been really good. People are spamming them kind of because they do really well as a spam unit, because they put you in this, like, interesting position where anything you hit is going to hit you back harder. The new mega boss is really, really fun. I've been playing a lot of pigs and big pigs because I like playing with the Shadow Tusk, the new artifact, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. They're great. Like, every single model in the army is really viable. Other than maybe, like, Mega Boss and Mockrash is kind of in an awkward spot, but he's not terrible. He's still he's probably not in a great spot, but he's fine. So this army is pretty much perfect, and you can see by the win rate, almost exactly 50%. Pretty popular. You're seeing a lot of them show up in tournaments. People having a lot of fun. It's all positive energy for everyone who's talking about it. So Iron Jaws is an absolute great spot.
No bias there whatsoever. Your win rate did go slightly up, so you went up from 48.5 to 50.6, so 2 basis points, which is not too bad. Yeah, popularity slightly declined, but I imagine it's going to pick back up again, because you're right. It is looking positive, and there's a lot of cool things, and the mega boss and the brutes coming from Akshi has helped, and it's kind of changed the shape a little bit, where you did have a heavy Gore Grunter kind of build. You're now starting to see brutes and Gore Grunters entering the chat too. So I think you're getting a nice balance when it comes to Iron Jaws, where maybe in the past seasons it's been skewed in one or two directions. So it's probably a good time to be an Iron Jaws player, regardless of how you want to build.
Yeah, definitely.
Next one is Cruel Boys. Cruel
So-
Boys, and I'm so happy for them. I hate you, but I'm so happy for you. I still carry the scars of the past of Potgrot Shamans and Bolt Boys, and I carry the scars deeply, but I always felt bad for you with a really low win percentage, some of the lowest last season, like 44.3 you were tracking at. You're now at 54.4. So you've gained 4 basis points purely in the last season. There's a lot to unpack here. I'm sure Elias is going to share a bit more in a second, but I think the community has felt the sentiment because your popularity has gone from 1.6 to 2.9.
Yeah.
So people are feeling the good vibes. You have seen the new Gobsprat come in. Sorry, you've seen Gobsprat come in, and the new killer boss with Stab Grot coming in, as well as the Snatcher boss. So you are seeing more of those things coming in, but what you're seeing dropping out is your Gairan killer boss, your Marsh Crawler. I don't think I've ever seen him. I haven't seen a Marsh Crawler in ages. I'm surprised you were even running it. I'm surprised that dropped out because I didn't think you even had it. And then your Beast Skewer Killbows have dropped out, which is interesting. I thought you would have kept it around for some of these big nasties. That one surprised me.
That's very, like, some of the unit changes is surprising to me, because like where I am at on the army is a little bit different from what other people are doing. I am surprised to see Gut Rippers so popular still, because I think Gut Rippers are, like, right now to me the worst unit in the army, and they're not bad. But I think Cruel Boys is the second best army in the game, in my opinion, right now. If you want to win a tournament and you're a good Cruel Boys player, they are like S tier. They are very, very strong. I think their win rate is not even reflective of how good they are. They do everything that you need to do right now. You see Cruel Boys Claw right there. A lot of that has to do with, like, shooting is pretty powerful right now, and Cruel Boys Claw protects you, and you can hide your monsters from shooting, and you're shooting from their shooting. So you're winning that shooting matchup, and then you keep your monsters safe. And then the monster matchups, you have anti-monster tag. There's also good in other matchups. So you're winning the monster matchups, and then you have all these mortal wounds and mobility and random damage, shooting, stuff like that. So you can win the fair matchups as well. You're good at battle tactics. Every single thing in the army is good. Right now, it all got very cheap because it wasn't working in Scourge of Ghirin. Now it is. And the rules changes for, like, Gobs bracket stuff are awesome. Being able to teleport during needed players' hero phase is gross. Super, super strong, especially at a high level. Like, this army is a menace right now at the, like, very high elo type players. It, like, some of the best players in the world I know are playing on them. And they've been DMing me a lot. I'm not gonna share who it is, but list will come out for Old Town Throwdown, and you'll see some really high level players who are bringing Cruel Boys because they think that is the best way to win this tournament. And they're right, in my opinion. Other than one other army that I think is slightly better, but they're very, very good, and they're fun. They actually play Cruel Boys.
They feel like they've returned to the start of 4th edition. I remember doing the commentary on just like some of the shenanigans that you guys were doing as Cruel Boys player. Then that kind of got nerfed immediately after the World Championships.
Yeah.
And then the mood for Cruel Boys just dropped massively. It was like really hamstrungy. But you're right as well. Like I'm also surprised Gut Rippers are as high as they are. I would have imagined Monster Killers as your chaff, your screens, your just menace. They are good. So keep an eye on this. I think they are doing well, and I don't think they're getting enough airtime as a menace that they are. People are still worried about Doc. They're worried about some of these other armies and not talking nearly enough about Cruel Boys.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
So keep an eye on them. But if I'm going to a tournament, I'm definitely worried about them. So keep an eye out on.
Gotta have a plan for Cruel Boys if you're showing up for a serious attempt to win a tournament. Gotta have a plan for that. So
what I'm not going to plan for is ogres, because I'm just going to talk about them. Like, straight up, we're not talking about this because this is the old stuff. Most tournaments, in fact, almost no tournaments allow you to run the FOMO stuff. People are building their things. Actually, you know what? Let's use this time for a brief moment. Where do you think ogres are going to land in the meta? Let's say after 30 days with Battle Tome in hand, models on shelf.
I think they're going to be on the very much the strong end. I don't think they're, like, busted as much as some people. Some people think they're really, really busted. I think they are very strong at combat, but also I think that they are very straightforward, and there's a lot of ways to play around them, and it takes some adaptation to like, oh, I can't just fight ogres. I can't just like walk up and beat them up. Like I have to do certain things that are going to be new to them. But I do think they're going to be on the strong end of things. I think their win rate will be very high because they can also just slug their way out of mistakes and stuff like that sometimes. And if they play really well, they also have high skill expression. So I would guess initially probably like around the 60% area. And I think that will slowly trickle down over time. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think they're going to do a dock. They're going to come out and reshape the meta. They're going to have a really high win percentage, not necessarily because the army is completely busted, but there's a couple of things that are either but like I needed that 1 or 2 games against them to really understand how to counter with them. They will slowly dip. They will slowly decrease. I'd be curious to see where they land, whether they are going to be all about, because there's a lot of lists being thrown around. And I'm writing up an article for a well-known Warhammer community, but like a couple of lists, right? One of them is like, are you going to go heavy gluttons? Because you could just absolutely spam gluttons with it, whether it's with Tyrant, whether it's with red. Are you going to see much more of a cavalry build? And I know a lot of people are excited about the Maw beasts. So do you have, whether it's Morgar or like a Tyrant on beast with a bunch of cav, maybe supported by a Huskard on Thunder Tusks to get some prayers and things? Are you going to start seeing like reinforced hunters with a blood pelt and just coming in deep striking and just annihilating something from range? I don't quite know where they're going to land, but I think they're going to set a new problem, and I'm excited to see where it lands.
So on a big picture scale, it's been a while since like shoving a bunch of stats forward has been even like remotely viable. Like for example, Chaos Warrior stuff, like it has not been good like for a very long time to just like, here's a bunch of fighty units. And this is going to be one of the first instances of that being good. Rot Swords is like another one. Same with like Slaanesh right now with the Painbringers, like you're shoving stats at people. And people are learning how to fight against that style that has not been relevant for a long time. Because it just hasn't been good. Like it hasn't been good enough to be like a major threat at a high level. And ogres, I do think will. The only thing that I'm seeing that people aren't rating as like crazy is Maw Seekers type stuff, but I think they're really cool. I think they're well balanced. They're not as like straight up powerful, but they have really cool rules, and they're the ones I'm the most excited about. I'm planning on trying to get some ogres because I want to paint them mostly. I
think they're too expensive. Like me and Carson were talking about it. I think they're too expensive. Like the Gut Seers, the Cleavers. I think there's some cool stuff that is available, but from a price point of view, you're just easier to do. Even like Iron Guts. Like Iron Guts aren't as good as leaning into some of the other areas, but let's see how it falls. But
I would agree, but I'd say it slightly differently. I think some of the other stuff is undercost. I think Maw Seekers is like they're fine. The other stuff is like maybe needs a little bit of a tap up on those points. But
I was gonna say gluttons are definitely like they're pretty good value.
They're pretty good at that point. It's like it's gonna be a meta. They will need to be a little bit nerfed for sure on points.
There'll be some tweaks. I don't know if I don't want to throw out nerf just but there'll be some adjustments. Speaking of adjustments, am I living my best life as a Suns player? So spoiler alert, pre-GHB, I talked a lot about Daughters of Cain. GHB show, we talked about Helsmiths, list submission, Sons of Behemoth. My boys have drawn me back. I couldn't help it. 1, they're just so easy to transport. 2, I can have some drinks and talk with you guys and not get distracted. And 3, I find this really interesting because if you look at most of the data here, the middle of the pack doing lots of 3 and 2s, but we've had a couple of outliers, and I'm blaming Michael Sabetti. Michael Sabetti, yep, busting it out 5 and 0s. Gargants were doing all right. Like last year, they were 51.1 with a 6% representation rate. They've increased 54% 54.9. So they've slightly gone up, but a less representation rate. Couple of things come out, and to the surprise of nobody, I'm surprised it even was in the list to begin with. The Gyron Kraken Eater has disappeared. No surprise, no lost. But what has entered the fold is the Akshi Gatebreaker and the Akshi Man Crusher. And with priest abilities, if you want to pay the 10 points, my oh my, it is a good time to be a Suns player. I do suspect that Gatebreakers might get a couple more once per army abilities, maybe to get tweaked. Like, sure, the D6 the D6 throwing attacks is a once per battle, which is great, but the movement in
the linebacker rush is a bit much.
that is going to get reined in a couple of months. I'm only running one. I'm a normal person. I'm not Michael running 4 Gatebreakers.
It's crazy. I read it because I just assumed it was once per turn army. And when I found it wasn't, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. It's like it's a lot. It's like, let's make this a 1-turn game. Someone's losing right now. It's really funny, and they're sitting in like that perfect Gargants thing where they go 3-2 like every time. They're like, yeah, the win rate's 55%, but they're not like busted. Like, maybe they're good though. They're really fun. They don't feel weak, and they don't feel as bad into their bad matchups now, because you have some cool little things you can do that like give you these outs, these cool ways you can play. So they feel great right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity. I'm talking a lot of the Suns players, and there is no one soul list. One, yes, the 4 Gatebreakers is not, I wouldn't say popular, because most people don't have 4 Gatebreakers ready to go unless you've magnetized. But what you are seeing is either a whole bunch of Man Crushers, and even Man Crusher mobs becoming more popular. You are seeing the more Gargants, and even the Kraken Eater has returned to the fold. Its points discounts have gotten to a point where it's so cheap that people are taking the Kraken Eater, kicking objectives around as well. So I wouldn't say it's got one particular build, but I think the community is pretty positive. And I don't think it's negative and toxic, other than what I just said around the Akshi Gatebreaker. I think that'll get reined in 3 months.
One little cool thing about the Kraken Eater is I do think that like the way the missions are spaced now, kicking objective around has like a bigger impact on the game than it did before.
Yes.
So that's a kind of interesting and important thing to mention. It feels much more. But before it's like, I mean, sure, you moved it, like, but who cares? And now it's like, oh, that's annoying. Like, that's
I'm kicking mine towards a place of power. Like, I'm getting the Kraken Eater to find the closest objective, kicking it towards a place of power. Then I'm sitting on an objective while tapping a place of power, increasing that Fury dice and that Rage tokens. And it's got a good range weapon. It'll do well in combat if you want to engage with it, and it allows everyone else to be free while it's tapping the rage to get up as quick as possible. So it has been a positive addition, and it doesn't change the points value as well, like we saw in the earlier games.
Yeah.
So Suns, good time. Hopefully, I'll tank their win rate next week, so we won't nerf them. I'll do an anti-Maddie. I'll bring him down so we can enjoy it a little longer. Speaking of enjoying things, certainly Cities of Sigmar have been enjoying some things. Their win rate has gone up from 44.8 to 54.6. More importantly, their representation went from 2.3 to 7.9.
Yeah,
that is
skyrocket, right? Huge, crazy jump. And people are having a lot of fun playing as them. I have some thoughts on their balance and stuff like that, but like they are definitely getting really popular right now, and their win rate is quite high, and they have one of the higher overall numbers. So like the win rate is probably more reflective of their actual where they end up than some of these other ones, which are like very low sample sizes. So the first thing I want to just call out is like those Free Guild Cavaliers are way too cheap at 150. Like everything else in the army is like, yeah, okay. You're like 150. Wait, what? 150 for that? Like, so I think that's a problem. Pretty much everything else in the army to me feels pretty close to correct. and that one thing gets fixed, like they should be hovering at a healthy win rate, and they're very interactive. They're very like you're very much playing the game with your opponent the whole time, which is like a fun way to play. They don't feel crazy except for the Cavaliers. So,
Yeah. Yeah, Cavaliers are going to get reined in. They will be another one we predict within 3 months. They'll get reined in. They're just too good. Whether it's an ability adjustment or a points increase, something is going to change. And the fact that they're number one, right? They're number one here. Yes, you've got Steel Helms in there. Yes, you've got Fusiliers as well. It's nice to see Grenadiers kind of pop in. No Cogforts, no Cogfort varieties, and I wonder if it's because partially Cavaliers are so good. You can't do Cavaliers and Cogforts, and it seems to be one of the many things holding Cogforts back.
yeah, I definitely think that's part of it for sure with the Cogforts, because like one of the things I was kind of complaining about a little bit is like with cities that like I can see that someone's playing cities and I already know like the first like 1,200 points their list. It's going to be like 20 Cavaliers. It's going to be the Cavalier Marshal. It's the two giants, and then like some support units around those. But I don't list it all out. But like it's forced into that because the Cavaliers are so efficient, and you'd be a fool not to bring them right now. It's kind of limiting some options, some alternate builds that would be really, really interesting and exciting. Like I think that the Cog Fort with Gallants is really cool and isn't seeing as much plays as I would love to see it do, because it's just outshined right now by Cavaliers. If they get tuned into being more balanced with each other, I think you'll see some really cool builds open up.
Yeah, Cogfort plus your Gallants is a big point investment, and it's probably a very similar point investment to Marshall with Cavaliers and or Gate Gargant or something else. And when you look at that package versus that package,
Yeah,
I'm going Cavaliers every time, right? But it's really interesting as well because you've seen your Command Corp have really dropped out, and no surprise given the way that they've changed around the Command Corp. Carlos and Toll have dropped out a little bit. Talia has re-entered, which is love it. I've been waiting for Talia.
She's so
love
cool.
it. She is. And even Steelhelms, like Steelhelms have found a really good spot now, and playing into Steelhelms a few times, they're so good. They are so
very annoying.
Yes, very
an
annoying.
aggressive army. You're like, oh my god. Oh, so
I charged my Scar brand into a bunch of knights, and they were in range of the. Or he countercharge? I think Jordan countercharged me with his Steel Helms. So then I had to fight with Scarbrand into goddamn Steel Helms. I'm like, I hate you so much. I hate you with all my heart.
It's so
Jordan.
funny, dude. But also tells a great gameplay story. I think there's also a good time to just talk about the Cog Forts, because I've been converting mine over time, and like I think the Cog Forts have been a little bit disappointing in how they've been performing, at least for me. And I think they're good, but you're not seeing them like really showing up everywhere the way you would have expected. I think, which I think a lot of people were expecting to be everywhere, and as it's panned out, not quite so much. Do you have any thoughts on that?
And look, to be honest with you, partially I did consider bringing Cogsons to OTT because I'm bringing in a allied Cog Fort. I did think about that, and I think it's still decent, right? As a Regiment of Renown, I can get a 25 health, 3-up save, pretty solid shooting attack with the Godbreaker cannon, pretty good combat with the Stompy feet. I get some abilities like the smoke to be able to stop people from shooting it or getting +1 to my charge roll. It's got some good uses, but for 450 or
70.
whatever, 470, it's a big points investment. And
yeah, I've a lot of lists I've been writing, they've been ending up like just barely like 2020, and I'm like, damn, if this thing was like a little bit cheaper, this list would be perfect, but I just can't quite fit what I want to do. And then the Conqueror, I think needs to be like 400.
What I don't understand I would love to see a world, even a trial game where somebody removes this rule, is the transport Cog Fort being able to transport a full unit. Not because obviously like reinforced unit in cities, unreinforced in regiments of renown. I would love to see what it looks like to be able to transport that reinforced unit of chosen, or a reinforced unit of like that squishy thing that another army really wants to do, but they don't want to go MSU. they want to go full.
Yeah, if they change, like I think the Conqueror could stay at 450 if you could put reinforced units into it. As it stands, it's like, oh, it's just like too hard to. I'm not gonna try that hard to get a unreinforced unit in because like it only gets that +1 damage for that one turn, and if you don't land that charge, you're like, and if it dies, they're gone. Like there's no way for it to get out. So like, it's a big investment, big risk, unreliable, and then like the payoff isn't worth it. Whereas if you could reinforce, they could be worth it. Be like, when it does work, it's so good that I will do this anyway.
I would much like to. I would like to see it, and you can't even like use the extra steam like you can in cities to get extra like movement and stuff. Like it's relatively slow. Like just unshackle them, let people run reinforced units in it. Like just let them be.
Very much agree. I like people doing cool stuff.
Yeah, like it's not that many units that can really take advantage of it. Like just chill. Speaking of chilling, Daughters of Cain is relatively chilling at that healthy win rate. Well, depend on how you see them. They've gone down a little. They've gone from 58 to 56. But what has spiked is their popularity. They've gone from 2.9 to 5.0. So the bandwagon is definitely in full effect. Morathi, great recipient of rage dice, both to mitigate and extra attacks. Blood Snakes doing relatively well. People seem to be enjoying the new Akshi Medusae Iron Scale. Interestingly enough, Blood Hags have dropped out. And I've been running them for a while. Like they came out, I ran a reinforced unit. It's a lot of work compared to running 10 Blood Sisters that are the same points. And I could understand why Blood Snakes with 3 health, they went up health, but they're the same price as Blood Hags.
I think the problem so Daughters of Cain got a bunch of nerfs but they're not getting anywhere near enough nerfs. The army, like I think the bandwagon's in full effect and their win rate is still at 56% with a high popularity. I think their actual power level is higher than that. I think they're still one of the top 3 or 4 armies in the game. The snakes are just crazy. What you're seeing a lot of people doing is just running 30 snakes. And they're just too cheap. Like it went from 140 to 160, and now they're still S tier. Like they probably need to be 170, 180, and then the rest of the army starts making more sense points wise.
And they went up health. They were 2 health. They're now 3 health. So the fact that they're at 140 for 3 health, or a reinforced unit is 280 for what's 3. What's it, maths? 30 health. 30 health
on a 4-up unrendable 6-up or sometimes 5-up ward with giving you strikes last, and like it's really, really oppressively powerful for its point cost. And I also don't understand why like the Canary Heartrenders is 2 Canaries. One of them went up, one of them didn't. And I don't know why, because they're both insanely good, and I think they could both go up more. I think they both do like 120 in my opinion. It's so like some of the stuff, like I think like a lot of the like Blood Sisters, the actual like classic doc stuff, the actual
Sisters of Slaughter, blood
they feel fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm not super worried about that, but like they're good, they're strong, but they're not like oh that's kind of stupid.
We can see it. Look at the key units. Blood Sisters, Morathi, Medusae Iron Scale. You've got your Blood Stalkers, your shooty snakes. And then obviously your Shadow Stalkers and your Life Takers. Like Sisters of Slaughter, Witch Elves, and your Blood Sisters are not on there. So none of the elves are on there. So the archetype is definitely towards snakes, and it's heavy snakes. So
yeah. And that's
I would like to see
costed. Like they just need to be more. They need another points hike on a lot of these units, and the army will be more fair. But like right now, it's too good. But like the regular, if you're playing naked ladies, you're doing fine. No one's annoyed at you. But if you show up with 30 snakes, you know who I'm talking.
Yeah, I was the murder strippers, and I got frustrated with Blood Hags being the same price as snakes, and I crumbled. And then I'm like, I don't want to play snakes. Snakes. What I also don't want to play is Fire Slayers, mostly because you all look the same, but more importantly, your win rate is through the roof at 68%. Your win rate went from 43.8 to 68. The representation from 0.5 to a 2.2. So someone has been in the cooking in the kitchen, and they're cooking up actually
that pizza
Volkite,
oven.
Flame Seekers. Yeah, you guys are cooking, and
so one of the things
this one threw me off.
I do know some of the reasons why I have played against it, and I do know why it's doing well. There's a couple reasons. Number one, there's that map thing we're talking about. They're very good at those closed maps, and we've been doing a lot of closed maps. The things that they struggle at are not showing up as much, but also small sample size. But people aren't used to playing Fire Slayers, and there's an eternal thing of like, which unit is that? And everyone's like, I don't know, and then you get got by it because they all look the same. That kind of happens a little bit. But the other thing is that the new Vulcan Flame Seekers, the new runes on Maggotkin, are way stronger than I initially valued them at. When I actually saw them on the table and the way that they interact with the Fury, it's like very, very good. The other thing is that the continuous points drops on the shooting Berserkers, which I think they're Auric Hearthguard, I think.
Yeah.
They shoot so hard. Like, they're very, very cheap, and like Auric Hearthguard costs the same as, let's say, Razors, but are like twice as tanky and shoot harder and require no support. And it's kind of a problem because now you can't really hide from shooting, and so the army's become a bit of a shooting army, and people will be spamming a lot of Hearthguard, and they'll just like shoot you off the table because they're so cheap now. And there's also sort of one of those things where, like, if you haven't played against it, the first time you go like, oh, I didn't realize that's what your army did, because they don't look like they should be doing that. So I think this will drop a little bit, but the shooting that's coming out of this army is kind of crazy right now.
It's a big block of meat that ogres are going to present, that Sons is currently presenting, and even Daughters of Cain through the Blood Sisters is presenting as well. It's this blocks of high health, elite, good, and there's a whole bunch of redundancy as well, where you're taking multiples of them because the points are very generous, that you can take multiples of them, where some armies might not get the benefit of that. Like, imagine cheap Chosen and just running armies of Chosen. So this is a really good time. It's a low sample size. I would be curious if partially part of this as well is people have been thinking about the monster meta, and they're not been thinking about the infantry meta. And if you have put all of your focus on high rend and or high damage, like mortals, to try to handle some of these like potential big boogies of, the rage dice, that all these infantry type of armies are really reaping the rewards. So, Cavaliers, again, the same type of situation. You big blocks of fast cav that is hard to chew through.
There's also a dynamic at play in the meta that really favors Fire Slayers, where there's a lot of aggression happening, a lot of explosive plays. And Fire Slayers, the way their runes work and the way the timing of them works, you can really get a huge leg up in those dynamics. You can disrupt someone's tempo on you super heavily by the right time, going, this turn, if you charge me, I have strikes first. And you're like, all of a sudden, someone who's like let's just say Scarbrand's a perfect example, but someone's got Scarbrand, they're like about to come in and get you. And then you're like, this turn, I have strikes first if you come in. And all of a sudden, you don't get to do that thing you want to do. And if you were playing these really aggressive style lists, Fire Slayer is very good at being like, I'm going to reverse this tempo on you. So that's also, I think, showing up a bit here. I am a little bit surprised by the like 2 5-0s and 3 4-1s is like pretty crazy. Like but we'll see how that pans out. Maybe they are that strong, but I would be a little bit surprised to see that continue that way.
Yeah, I don't expect too many of those happening. But let's continue. Let's see how they go. But yeah, that surprises me. But yeah, let's just keep an eye out. But if you're a Fire Slayers player, it's a good time to dust off your naked baby dwarves. Idoneth, it's interesting because like one of my club mates yesterday was actually feeling really positive about Idoneth, and they were talking very highly to what you were referring to around Reavers and Thralls. They were like, I want to do more Reavers and Thralls, keep my turtle around still, loving their Eidolon, but more weren't as favorable towards eels. So their win rate has declined, going from 45 to 37, but their popularity has doubled, 1.7 to 3.7.
I think those two numbers are very related. For a long time, Idoneth Deepkin has been incredibly bad and only played by dedicated players who are obsessed with playing them and edging out wins barely. The army got a lot better, like a lot stronger, but also a bunch of people who have not been playing Idoneth, which is traditionally a very difficult army, are jumping in and playing, and also people who are experienced of not playing with them already, and so they're relearning the army that plays fundamentally different from how they've been practicing for years to play the army. So I think this win rate will keep climbing up over the next few months. I think they're much closer to a 50-50 right now than this would show. I'm feeling pretty positive. I almost brought them to Old Town Throwdown, but I was like, I don't have the time right now to practice to the level that I need them to be at to try and win Old Town Throwdown with them. I do think they are a viable option to win tournaments with, though, for the first time in 4th edition for me, that I'm feeling that way about them. However, Sharks are atrocious. They need to drop like 30 points per Shark, and Eels are in a rough spot because the things are more centralized. They really don't like break a lot of the brick armies, and they also don't like, because it's just not a good spot for Eels right now, and they're not efficient. You can play some Eels if you want, but like I think really if you want to win right now, you're playing like kind of a mixed arms. You got to play some Reavers, and like you're trying to build like more synergistically. And they play like a 5-turn game with lots and lots of interactions and tools and lots of cool tricks you can do. But those tricks are very precise. You're very squishy, so people are losing at first. But I think this will change over time as they kind of like ratchet up their experience on them. I think they're in a good spot.
I think their shape is going to change, and you're right. It's been heavy Eels, heavy Sharks. It's been that traditional style, and I think more and more IDK players are now tapping into Mathalia, tapping into Reavers and Thralls, and keeping their turtle. They pulling back on their Eels and or Sharks, but using them more as flanking threats rather than the core of their attack. So I think the shape is changing. It's taking a little bit of time. This will continue to go up. I think it's like low 40s, like, 47, so no, high 40s, like 47, 48. But I think they're in a good spot. And I think you would definitely keep going at it. And it might actually then change from Beastmasters to a different formation.
I'll tell you, I'm not playing Beastmasters. My list did not play Beastmasters that I was going to play, so
I think you start to shift a little bit. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. But I think it is going to get better. Hopefully for you guys, something that's going to go better is KO. KO abysmal, was 51.3, down 36.4, while their representation rate is relatively consistent, was 2.2, now 2.5. I don't really have a lot to say on this one, purely because I haven't had a chance to play into KO just yet, so I actually haven't seen them on the table, and what in theory makes sense might not be translating. But I am seeing, from a unit perspective, you've seen the dropping out of like your Harpoon crew and your Engine Master with Engine Harness, but what you're seeing is the like of more Thunderers coming in, more Drekky Flint. That's what I'm kind of starting to see.
Yeah, I think so. I was talking to people, and like part of it is that they don't gain a ton from the Ashy stuff, but I do think they actually still have some stuff. I think the Ashy Scrolls came out very, very overcosted. Those need to drop. But most of the other stuff, I actually think the army's still really good, but all the things that I think are going to shine now were quite bad in Scourge of Giran, because like you couldn't grind people down with shooting because it was just too easy to hide and too much like chip healing, and so all those units, like these small ships, I always forget the name of them.
Gun haulers
and stuff were like not really shining because they couldn't shoot what they wanted to shoot. Most of the time, you couldn't play this skirmishing style, so you had to lean really hard this all-in, super aggressive melee one, which currently people are building quite heavily to counter that sort of play style. So I think there's going to be some adjustment. And I also was talking to some people, and like a lot of the people who are like known for being very Kharadron, very high skilled Kharadron players, haven't yet gone to a GT with the army. So it's a very small sample size, and a lot of people who are like known for being very good at the army haven't played a GT yet, basically. So it'd be really interesting to see. I think probably the next week or two, you're going to start seeing some of these like really high level Kharadron players showing up and see what they're doing. and hopefully it's reversed because they look strong to me. They're not dissimilar from Idoneth, but the things that are good in them, I think, shine brighter than the things that are good in Idoneth. Like the eels aren't great, but like if sharks were more appropriately costed, they would be well positioned. It's gun haulers are kind of like that. So we'll see. I think their win rate is not accurate to their power level.
Nah, not even close. I think you're right as well. It's a feeling that I've had that KO needs to go back to more of the skirmish style rather than all in on the ironclad and just go in. Ironclad,
Frigates,
the frigate that's loaded up and just like you go for the charge. That type of style. Because I think there's too many things now fighting centrally that you can then just go in and like counter punch them. That skirmishy style and like taking out key pieces probably is going to be where they will thrive the most. But
yeah,
long story short, I agree with you. I don't think this is reflective. I'm actually genuinely surprised that it's this low. I don't think that's actually accurate, and why we don't like freak out about some of the data.
Yeah, when you have like several hundred games,
Playing into this yesterday, I would agree that this is a good, healthy win rate. So playing into Lumineth Realm-Lords yesterday as my first game of my day, they're in a really good spot. Their win rate has been relatively consistent, was 56, now 53. Their representation, though, has dropped significantly, was 7.3, now 3.4. So I don't know if people are starting to lose interest in Lumineth or going out to a shiny new thing, but certainly that representation rate surprised me.
I think like there was a lot of the bandwagon when people felt like they could win for sure. I'm a little bit surprised to see it go down this low because I think the army's actually in a really good spot right now. And almost everything feels quite viable. I know that my partner Penny has been playing a lot of the Minotaurs, the Bulls, and been finding them to be quite powerful. And some of my other friends are playing with like the Wind units and also like Sentinels. I think one of the things that did drop the popularity is that, in my opinion, the what are they called? The Knights, the Venari Knights. Dawnriders, in my opinion, got over nerfed, and they're paying for Light of Eltharion's Sin. It's really interesting to see Light of Eltharion still at number 1. He feels fair now, like still very good, but far from like auto include.
Talk to a Lumineth player, and I think you hear that it's a heavy tax now for Eltharion. Whether you agree or disagree, we're like us people like, yeah, spend the CP, like you deserve it, and they'd be like, no, I don't want to spend the CP. Like Eltharion is now a heavy investment in resources, both point and CP, and now I know people are starting to question, is it still worth it? I tell you what, though, Sevireth yesterday was a bane of my existence. And I would not be dropping Sevireth. Like being able to try to chase down heroes and do certain things. This was a savior for my opponents. So, but I do know that they were questioning Light of Eltharion. Even though they beat me 66 to 65, they were like, I don't know if I really need Light of Eltharion.
Yeah, a 1-point win is like, that was a razor game, right? Like it could have gone either way. I think that's where he is. He's exactly where he should be, where you have to really think, is my list going to utilize this unit well or not? And he's not auto-include. Like, but if your list can use him, he's still great. Yeah. But he's definitely not auto-include anymore. So I think the army's in a good spot.
I agree. And wind charges have appeared in the list, which is interesting. I did find that one
after getting nerfed. They were showing up a lot here in SoCal. We were all like, this unit is crazy busted. They went up in points, and now they're in the most popular. So they are very good still. The Scourge of Ghyran leaving made them better because they can shoot more targets more easily now. They're very tanky. They're very fast. Great at scoring. So they're still really, really good. And they're not showing up so much, but I do think like Avelinor and the cows do shine a lot brighter than they did before. And Teclis is actually kind of interesting now as well, in my opinion. But he's hard.
A lot of points. A lot of points on Teclis. A lot of points. What isn't a lot of points and maybe has sucked out the power of Lumineth is Seraphon. Now, that was that broke my heart in the last season, where Seraphon was sitting at such a low representation and such a low win rate that I wanted Seraphon to return, and Seraphon has definitely returned at a healthy 54%, so increasing like 13 basis points, but also in popularity, like doubling. They were 3.7, now 7.3. So huge popularity, and probably the strongest all-round story to a faction. What's fascinating to me is that you've started to see Croak re-entering as a popular pick. The Akshi Scar veteran on Agradon is jumping in. Your Sunblood pack, your Saurus Guard, your Skink Starseer, they're all jumping in. And finally, because Fabio, you're annoying, Fabio, you know who you are. The amount of times this guy has charged me with an army of just Raptidons and Hunters of Hawachi and those stupid skinks and stupid pterodons. It's just like the whole army, like top of turn one in my face.
Yeah.
But you are seeing some of that star dropping out. And to me, I'm more excited not for Fabio to add more units, but bringing back some of the stuff, bringing back Croxidol, bringing back Saurus Guard, bringing back Agradons. You haven't seen Seraphon to its fullest, and I'm excited about bringing some of those other models back.
I also think there's a really big dynamic here that I find really fun to talk about, which is like when army is bad for a long time, and then it finally hits like a fair power level. Those players who've been slugging it out with this army that wasn't good enough for a long time, they really get their time in the sun. Like Brian Horton is a great example, fantastic player. We're playing when they're underpowered while doing super well repeatedly, and now he's just crushing. Like he recently 5-0'd the Palm Springs Open, and he's just been winning all like lots and lots of games. And like those players really slugged it out for a long time, and now they're finally got their time in the sun. And so I think the army is actually quite balanced. 54% is kind of high, but I don't actually think it's unbalanced. I think it's right about where it needs to be, and it's in a really good healthy spot.
And look at the top units. They're all a mixture. You've got Agradon Lancers, you've got Croxigor, you've got Saurus Warriors. You've got a wild variety. So regardless of the type of Seraphon that you enjoy, there is something for you. It's not this super skewed like we saw with Daughters of Cain, which was just all in on snakes. So for me, that's a huge win. That's a huge win. I still want to know why we got points increases and things change with what's that stupid shooting unit called? The Spawn of Chotek. Like, what the Spawn of Chotek did to anybody, I would love to know.
I have played against the Spawn Chotek spam, and it is hilarious. I think that someone got bad touched by them. Like, it is really good. And the armies that can't fight it, it's insane. Like, you're just like, there's nothing you can do. You're going to get tabled like turn 2. They're just going to shoot you off the table. But if you're good against it, that happens to them. It's
this is like when Mason ran like a million Death Masters or in a
I fought Mason specifically on that, and it was so funny. Like, but Iron John is really good at shooting, so I won that matchup. But then his other games were like crazy. So
you can blame Mason for like the auxiliary increases and stuff. So they're like, long story short, the Spawn of Chotek has done mostly nothing to nobody. Stormcast, another interesting one. And I think again, I think we talk about this all the time with Stormcast, is that their high popularity is a detriment to their win rate because it's such an easy army to start with and such a deep roster that it's hard to find the right army build, but also it does attract lesser experienced players, which does bring down the win percentage. And that's a good thing. Like, we obviously want new players in, don't get me wrong, but like if you strip out the inexperienced players, like what do you possibly see? So it's always going to have like a couple of basis points where it's not really a true reflection, especially for Stormcast. But their win percentage has gone down about 7 points actually, from 49 to 42. Their representation has gone down 7.9 to 6.0. What you have seen, and I'm so happy to say it because I called it, Indrasa. She's back, baby. Indrasa. I love her. I have terrorized so many people with Drasa, with that come from the sky, anti-monster, double damage, shooting, 3d6 charge, double damage on the spear in the combat. She is and she's on a small base too, so she's just a terror to zone out. Also,
I think like Stormcast is in a pretty decent spot, but I think their win rate is they aren't in a great spot right now for a couple specific reasons. I think like they got mostly buffs, but the stuff that beats Stormcast is showing up a lot right now. Like I was talking about with the armor saves earlier, like they have a lot of guys who are like relying on those 3-up saves, and there's a lot of like extreme damage showing up. So you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be like pretty tanky, but I'm not like a pure tank, but I'm like decently durable. And they're like, I'm gonna break your armor anyway. That is showing up a bit. And there's a lot of anti-ward stuff. There's some stuff that relies on wards, a couple like annoying things like that. But also, there's some units I think are being underplayed right now that really are really good. Like I think the Celestin Prime is in a fantastic spot. You should definitely be trying to throw some Celestin Prime, and not seeing him up here on this list is surprising to me because he's like so perfect with the new rules. And I think there's a lot of units that I think there's some adjustment to builds that needs to happen a bit, and some units that were incredible before are not really as good as they were before. Like for example, I think Quester Soulsworn, although they're very popular, aren't as good as they were before because of the way the maps are. There's a couple situations like that. But the army does feel good. I think the 42% is not necessarily reflective of power level, but I do think it's like right around the 50-ish area in terms of overall ability to win games.
The thing that I want to run, because I do play Stormcast, the things that I want to run this season, I feel like they're overcosted. Like this feels like the perfect time to run out my Dracothian, like Concussors and Fulminators and Stormdrake Guard, but they're points so aggressively compared to the what are they called, the Paladors, like Paladors. Paladors with javelins. Like I'm just so much better going for the javelin Paladors that it's hard to. Yeah, it's hard to go with it, but this is the perfect season for my Fulminators, my Concussors, my Desolators, and my Stormdrake Guard.
I can definitely see like all the dragons basically going down. It's like all the Stormdrakes need to drop a little bit. The Stormdrake Hero needs to drop a little bit. I think Krondys is still overcosted. Like you can't be that expensive and not have a ward save. You know what I mean? He needs to run the get attached to him, but basically adds 130 point cost to him.
Correct.
So like he needs to be like 450 probably at the there's like a little bit of efficiency issues here and there that add up to a lot of the builds not quite working. And then when people try to bring them, they do quite poorly because they're like one unit short of what they needed to like be able to win games. I don't think that they feel like terrible, but they just don't quite get there. You know what I mean? Like, and they're pretty close. And I don't think it'll take a lot for those units that really use the rules well to be cheap enough to actually run effectively.
Yeah, if you got the Liberator treatment where they got a little bit, like Grand Hammers have been doing incredibly well. That's it, the Paladors doing well, Liberators doing well. Soul Swarm are doing very well. If we can shift the power a little bit towards some of the other units, I do see this going up and creating a bit more diversity. It would certainly get me back into Stormcast.
Definitely agree.
Second last or last, I can't remember. Sylvaneth. Yeah, there's nothing else after Sylvaneth. Yes, Sylvaneth is our last faction. Last faction, doing well. 61%. Got to play into this yesterday. They've gone up 11 points. They were 50.5 win percentage, now 61.4. And their representation has gone down though, going from 5.8 to 4.4.
Yeah. So they got nothing but nerfs, but like when I did my little tier list thing, I picked them as going from the best army in the game to the best army in the game. Because they got
Fire Slayers. No.
Oh yeah, that's true. Fire Slayers, but like these guys' sample size is also pretty big. So they got hit with a bunch of nerfs, but the thing is that like a lot of the units were like insanely undercosted. Just absolute nonsense. Like we're with the Revenants, I think it was. Fire Revenants, they were like 80 points and now they're 100. It's like they're still kind of insane at 100 points. Like they probably need to be 120. And there's a lot of things like that. The Warsong Revenant's still very undercosted. Spirit of Truth is insane this new season. But the other thing that's really, really important is that the season gives some of such a huge boost in power. Like Alariel, when you can keep her alive at 1 wound with your Fury dice, and then she heals 2d6, and you're like, that sucks. I didn't like that. And Spirit of Duthu, when you can reroll a hit and a wound, and an armor save every phase. You're end step fighting with 3 things. You reroll hit, reroll a wound, and then they hit you back and you reroll that save. And it's just like crazy, like ridiculous amounts of power you're getting from that. And they gained more from this new GHB than any other army did. And there's also really, really annoying things like you used to. One of the main things you could do to fight Sylvaneth, the main tools you had to try and keep in the game against them was by charging their trees. You can't do that anymore. So Sylvaneth, like for me, Sylvaneth is one of those armies that has been, since the new book came out, my least favorite army to play in the game. Because for me, I feel like I can't do anything. And that's really been exacerbated by the situation. Like I'm a little bit of a doomer about Sylvaneth, admittedly. Like they tilt me personally. But they're just tabling you, and it feels like you can't do anything about it right now. It's pretty rough. Some armies can fight them though. But if you're not one of those armies, it's a tough spot. Like a 62% with one of the higher play popularities is pretty crazy. And I think, and they're also one of the hardest armies to play in the game, the highest skill cap, and they're still sitting at that. It's rough right now, and I think they're going to need some changes to help them get more in line, because the ability to like block movement paths through trees is really tough when you can't charge them anymore. And that's one of the things you're seeing a lot of. So I think they're a problem. I think they're one of the few armies here where I can confidently say like they need adjustments to bring them in line. And they did get heavy adjustments, but the amount they gained and from the rules changes is like kind of game breaking at the moment. That's not true for every single build of Sylvaneth. Like obviously I'm talking about like the people who are like really, really doing certain things, but they're in a very, very strong spot.
And it's no surprise if you look at the 61. Anything that's above 55% needs to be reined in, regardless of like personal feeling or like, where an army is. Like we should never, like the healthy spot is somewhere between 45 and 55 is where we're roughly sitting. And you have an outlier for a little bit, but it gets reined in eventually. And 61% with a high sample size compared to Fire Slayers definitely needs to reined in. Daughters of Cain has gone from that. Tzeentch has gone from that. We've seen them being reined in. I'd be curious to see where this lands. You're right. From a Sylvaneth perspective, it is a high skill expression. And if you're able to really tap into it as a high skill player, you can do incredibly well. And we've already seen 2 5-0s hit, 4 and 1s, lots of 3 and 2s. So they're already in a really good spot. And the season does play well into them. It might be some points adjustments. I personally haven't got into any of the Kurnoths just yet, but I did get to go into like Gossamer Archers. I've seen Durthu. I've seen the Tree Lord Ancient and doing some fun things there. We'll just keep an eye on this one, but I imagine if the trend continues, it'll be reined in for the next Battlescroll.
Yeah, I would think so.
But
and
it's
it's still a moderately low sample size, but I do expect that this will be a bit of a problem. But like it's the beginning of a GHB, inevitably things like this will show up. And you gotta try to have a plan against it. And some armies can very much fight Sylvaneth. And I think there is a lot of tools, like there's a lot of ways you can interact with them. And they don't feel quite, despite their higher win rate, to me, they actually feel a lot more beatable than before, which is interesting. But the things that are good in like at the high level, because they're playing all these really, really powerful combat monsters and really, really good at using them. Whereas before it was like, I'm going to score 80 points no matter what you do. But they're kind of fun to play against. They're not like an infuriating high win rate, because some armies, like when they're really high, you're like, this sucks. This one's like, well, they're fighting you fundamentally. So
Gargants are a perfect example. When they're at their height, people hate fighting. KO is another one. Like when KO is at its height and Sun's at their height, you just hate, like you see the matchup and you're like, I can't do this. I don't have the DPS check. I can't pin you down. Like when you KO used to have the retreat, get into the boat, yeet out. It's like, why do I even bother? So Sylvaneth doesn't have that, but they definitely do have high skill and high win percentage opportunity. Look, that was the meta show. We'll talk more, I guess, when we catch up next, and we'll have much more data. The final thing I'll ask my guest is, what's the thing you're most excited about next week for Old Town Throwdown? So we will be doing you're doing a preview show. Go check it out. Thursday Eastern, 7 p.m. You're West. You East? No, you're West.
PST.
You're West. You're
Pacific,
West,
yeah.
not Eastern. Yeah. So 7 p.m. California time this Thursday. If you want to see the list, you want to see my dog shit award-winning list, go check that out. Already announced. Already announced in Discord. I'm a terrible list writer. Just like
yeah.
What do you always look forward to?
I think actually the thing I'm most looking forward to is showing up with all my various Old Town Throwdown themed gear and actually like a pro wrestler all weekend. So we have all these big wrestling belts, all the previous champions. There's like the bounty board, stuff like that to beat them. And I have like a big pimp chain, the pimp ring that I've won for various tournaments. And so I'm gonna be having an absolute blast with that. What about you? What are you most excited about?
I mean, other than hanging out with you guys and all of that, I mean, day one, Gareth, the TO, has the best hat award, and I have brought out I bought a official and legit Crocodile Dundee hat, which includes real crocodile teeth, and like it's legit croc hat. Cost me like $200. That's how committed I am to winning this award. And I've also bought myself the flag, the Simpsons flag with Australia with the boot and the bum. I've got that flag as well, so we'll have a good time. But
it's so fun.
But I'm also really looking forward to seeing AoS at this scale, where like we've all been playing around in the local games clubs, we've been talking about it on the internet. Now the tournament scene's kicking in, and what does all of this theory look in practice?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely like the first okay, this is like serious. This year in the West Coast at minimum is like this let's actually see what's happening when people really throw their best possible things at it. So
is KO this bad? Is FS really this good? We got to see all of these things, are they real and not real? So keep an eye out on Best Coast Pairings. If you can go subscribe to, just check out the event. You can follow along. I'm sure many of us socials will be on there tweeting and sharing stuff. On that note, I'm going to let you go home. I'm going to go get some lunch with my dog and my wife. I'll see you literally in a couple of days' time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be posting a lot in Discord as well about it. So
adios.
Bye for now. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.